January the 7th, 2026. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful, and it's that time once again for your daily Torment report, where we cover the posts and videos and announcements of the men who are tormenting the world the most, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Today we have, it's been quite a day today with the shooting in Minneapolis. The Trump administration released new guidelines for our nutritional charts, basically turning the food pyramid upside down. We've got some interesting updates on 3i Atlas. What else do we have? We also have some interesting developments with the British commander speaking at the UN. While the rest of the UN defends Hamas, the British commander accuses them. It's going to be an interesting day. Let's get into this. So let's start with our guy, Donald Trump, and what he posted since last time we were on. So he says, I think we may have read this or I may have brought this up, but here's the post. Donald Trump says, I am pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. This oil will be sold at its market price. Nice. And that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I have asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump. Yeah, more on this later. We'll find out just who gets that money and what Venezuela gets from that. And maybe talk a little bit more about it when it comes up. All right, moving on. Let's see. So here's a post from Donald Trump. Hire John Harbaugh fast. He and his brother are total winners. I have no idea what that means, but okay. All right. Remember, for all of those big NATO fans, they were at 2% GDP, and most weren't paying their bills until I came along. The USA foolishly paying for them. I respectfully got them to 5% GDP, and they pay immediately. Everyone said that couldn't be done, but it could because beyond all else, they are all my friends. Without my involvement, Russia would have all of Ukraine right now. Remember also, I single-handedly ended 8 wars, and Norway, a NATO member, foolishly chose not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize. But that doesn't matter. What does matter is that I saved millions of lives. Russia and China have zero fear of NATO without the United States, and I doubt NATO would be there for us if we really needed them. Everyone is lucky that I rebuilt our military in my first term and continue to do so. We will always be there for NATO, even if they won't be there for us. The only nation that China and Russia fear and respect is the DJT rebuilt USA. Make America great again. All right, well, there you go. Hey, Joe, man, you need prayers about moving? Where are you moving to? What's going on? Getting a new place? Is this out of necessity or desire? I assume that because you need prayers, this is probably out of necessity. Definitely something I can keep in my prayers for you, brother. All right, let's see, so 6 hours ago from Donald J. Trump in honor of the late great Congressman Doug LaMalfa, a true American patriot and fantastic representative of Northern California. Yesterday, I ordered all American flags throughout the United States lowered to half-mast until this evening. Doug will be dearly missed. It was nice. I had a desire. Nice. I think I'd like to actually downgrade myself. I was literally just talking about that with my wife before the show. We have too much junk. I'm like, I would be happy. I would be happy living in like a trailer. I would be happy living a minimalist lifestyle, like with even less. She disagrees because we live on a farm. She likes her animals. Anywho, um, filling bottles of vanilla extract. We go through a lot of vanilla extract. We make our own whipped cream for our coffee, and we use a lot of vanilla extract. All right, 6 hours ago, for a very long time, this is good news. For a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. It was the reward for working hard and doing the right thing, but now, because of the record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress, that American dream is increasingly out of reach for far too many people, especially younger Americans. It is for that reason, and much more, that I am immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes. And I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. I will discuss this topic, including further housing and affordability proposals, and more at my speech in Davos in 2 weeks. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. I guess if it makes it, is that so? I guess I don't have the knowledge to really comment on this. It are these large institutions preventing people from buying homes? That would be my first question, which I'm assuming is yes, which would be why he would be banning them from buying the homes. But my understanding is there were more homes on the market than there were people to buy them, and that the problem was the high interest rates. I thought it was a matter of lowering the interest rates, not increasing the supply. So don't really know enough facts about that to comment. But I do trust Donald Trump, and I assume that he's making this um, this change in order to affect the actual problem. I would hope. All right. 5 hours ago, all United States defense contractors and the defense industry as a whole, beware. While we make the best military equipment in the world, no other country is even close. Defense contractors are currently issuing massive dividends to their shareholders and massive stock buybacks at the expense and detriment of investing in plants and equipment. The situation will no longer be allowed or tolerated. Also, executive pay packages in the defense industry are exorbitant and unjustifiable given how slowly these companies are delivering vital equipment to our military and our allies. Salaries, stock options, and every other form of compensation are far too high for these executives. Defense companies are not producing our great military equipment rapidly enough, and once produced, not maintaining it properly or quickly. From this moment forward, these executives must build new and modern production plants, both for delivering and maintaining this important equipment, and for building the latest models of future military equipment. Until they do so, no executive should be allowed to make in excess of $5 million, which, as high as it sounds, is a mere fraction of what they are making now. Additionally, the maintenance and repair of equipment, once sold, is far too slow and must be immediately enhanced. As president, I am demanding that maintenance be spot on time. I don't blame him. Some of these contractors are making like hundreds of millions of dollars. So yeah, $5 million is going to be a massive pay cut. But I mean, so this is where competition needs to come in. Why don't you let Elon in on making some of these weapons? That'll get him in check. He'd make a business that would just sweep up all of the military. He'd probably make the Iron Man suit. Therefore, I will not permit dividends or stock buybacks for defense companies until such time as these problems are rectified. Likewise, for salaries and executive compensation, military equipment is not being made fast enough. It must be built now with the dividends, stock buybacks, and overcompensation of executives. Rather than borrowing from financial institutions or getting the money from your government, longer term, this is good for both executives and shareholders because it will be great for our country. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Yeah. I mean, look what he did with Starlink, or not Starlink. Um, shoot, why am I drawing a blank? Is it SpaceX? Jeez, it's been a long day. Look what he did with SpaceX. He reduced the cost of going into space by like a major factor, by a lot. Yeah. All right. So now we're getting into this news. So from defense spending to Minneapolis. Yeah. Here we go. All right. You guys heard about the shooting. So this is Donald Trump's response if you haven't heard about this yet. So from Donald Trump, I just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing, and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied in its entirety. But for the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They are just trying to do the job of making America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from the radical left movement of violence and hate. Yeah, so probably not going to play these videos. There's a bunch of them. I'm not sure what YouTube is doing right now, but typically they don't like you to play videos like this. It's really easy to get a hold of these videos. You can go to Trump's timeline here and watch it on here. It basically just, I mean, it shows what you've probably heard. If you haven't heard, it shows, ICE agents trying to access a woman's car. She pretty much slams on the gas, even though she's surrounded by ICE agents. They prosecute anybody who does this. I mean, even when this is such a hard situation. You know, if you're driving on a road and you get surrounded by protesters, if you slam on the gas, that's assault with a deadly weapon. However, it could be justified if you feel like your life is threatened. So in one instance, it can be justified. In this instance, nobody had any guns drawn on her. They just were trying to stop. They were just trying to talk to her, and she freaked out, probably because she was a legal alien. I don't know. I honestly don't know anything about her. But when your life is not being directly threatened and you slam on the gas when somebody's in front of you, that is assault with a deadly weapon. The vehicle is a deadly weapon. So from what I've seen, I'm inclined to agree with Donald Trump's assessment on this. Which, as unfortunate as it is, and really the way that the left and the extremists and the activists are treating our law enforcement right now, it's unjustified. It really is. If you spend any time watching, like the occupation outside the ICE facility in Portland or Chicago, or even these people are clearly paid activists because they're showing up even to journalists. It's like, so when Nick Shirley was just knocking on doors at daycare centers, there were people starting to show up saying no ICE, no ICE, no ICE, right? He's not with ICE. He's not with Immigration and Enforcement. Odd that they would show up in front of a Somali daycare, right? But that this kind of rhetoric that there's like violence and taking people away from their families and stuff like that. The fact is there are people in our country illegally, and there are dangerous people in our country illegally. And also along with that is there are people in our country, new people who might be here legally, who are gutting us from within. Like that one video that blew up, it blew up because he exposed 100, was it million or billion? It was a large number. I think it was 100 million, but I think the total in Minneapolis so far is like $18 billion. of fraud that's been exposed. So the fact that there are people who even want to interfere with that is just mind-boggling to me. So with this kind of violence rhetoric, it's interesting because you can see the trajectory of where we're going. Things are escalating; they are not de-escalating. And when we're looking at a some kind of an event to kick off on February 17th, it's not hard to see what that might be. Definitely something with violence. All right, let's keep going. Along the lines back on defense spending from Donald Trump, I have been informed by the Department of War that defense contractor Raytheon has been the least responsive to the needs of the Department of War, the slowest in increasing their volume, and the most aggressive spending on their shareholders rather than the needs and demands of the United States military. Raytheon seems to think this is the Biden administration and this is business as usual. It is not. Either Raytheon steps up and starts investing in more upfront investments like plants and equipment, or they will no longer be doing business with the Department of War. Also, if Raytheon wants further business with the United States government, under no circumstances will they be allowed to do any additional stock buybacks, where they have spent tens of billions of dollars. Until they are able to get their act together, our country comes first, and they are going to have to learn that the hard way. President DJT. Yeah, Raytheon. All right, 3 hours ago. Let's see. 3 hours ago, after long and difficult negotiations with senators, congressmen, secretaries, and other political representatives, I have determined that for the good of our country, especially if these very troubled and dangerous times, our military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion, but rather $1.5 trillion. Okay. This will allow us to build the dream military that we have long been entitled to. More importantly, that will keep us safe and secure. I wonder if February 17th is for when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. Safe and secure regardless of foe. If it weren't for the tremendous numbers being produced by tariffs from other countries, many of which in the past have ripped off the United States at levels never seen before, I would stay at the 1 trillion. But because of tariffs and the tremendous income that they bring, amounts being generated, that would have been unthinkable in the past, especially just 1 year ago during Sleepy Joe Biden administration. The worst president in the history of our country. This is how you know he doesn't have people writing these, because nobody in their right mind would write text like this. Only Donald Trump could get away with this. We are able to easily hit the 1.5 trillion number now, while at the same time producing an unparalleled military force and having the ability to, at the same time, pay down debt and likewise pay a substantial dividend to modern income patriots within our country. Okie dokie. Cool. 2 hours ago, I have been informed that Venezuela is going to be purchasing only American-made products with the money they receive for our new oil deal. These purchases will include, among other things, American agricultural products and American-made medicines, medical devices, and equipment to improve Venezuela's electric grid and energy facilities. In other words, Venezuela is committing to doing business with the United States of America as their principal partner. A wise choice, and a very good thing for the people of Venezuela and the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. What do you guys think about that? I think it's a good thing. I mean, I think it's fair. Basically, what he's doing is he's just trading oil for American-made products. The money is just a mechanism of exchange. He doesn't have to do it. I mean, rightfully, we could just take the oil. So, I mean, I think it's a good thing, personally. You basically give us some oil, and we'll give you medicine and food and products, stuff that they need desperately. The riches of Venezuela have been stripped from among the people. So as long as this stuff is going to the people, that's amazing. This is the stuff they really need. They don't actually really even need the money. What they need is the stuff. They need the goods. They need food. They need, products, agricultural products, so that they can start farms and businesses again. During, the last 20 some odd years, the dictators who've been in charge have been stripping everything of wealth in the name of socialism. I've read stories and heard accounts of them going into very successful businesses in order to take them over and run them, and they just shut them down and strip them of everything of wealth. So, yeah, I imagine the people need resources desperately. All right, last post posted 57 minutes ago. It was a great honor to speak with the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, who called to explain the situation of drugs and other disagreements that we have had. I appreciate his call and tone and look forward to meeting him in the near future. Arrangements are being made between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Foreign Minister of Colombia. The meeting will take place in the White House in Washington, D.C. All right, we'll do a refresh here to make sure there's nothing new. Yeah, there it is. All right, let's move on to chats. Oh. All right. Did you get to Trump's flamer commentary yet? Which flamer? Which one? a lot of them could be inflammatory. See, there were people wanting to buy, but BlackRock and others bought them up faster than the people could and rented them out. Oh, you're regarding homes. That's a good point. This took them off the market and created a lack of homes on the market for those wanting to buy, especially for low-income people who wanted cheaper homes. You will find that if you make your own, so this is from Fury. You will find that if you make your own extracts, you will have stronger extract and can use less. It tastes better too. Good to know. So where do you buy vanilla beans, or do you grow vanilla beans? I don't know. I don't know if they grow here or not. Let's see. In my neighborhood, all kinds of communications to buy your house, even text consistently. Yeah. So you know how that works. That happens here too, where we're at. And even like I don't know if you guys have seen those really crappy signs. It's usually just like a 10 by 20 cardboard or whiteboard written on it. We buy houses and we pay cash. I don't know why the whole real estate market just doesn't work like this. So what happens is, say you have a home and you don't have a lot of equity in it, or you have a lot of equity and you don't really care to get it out. Or, okay, so here's the situation. So if you were to sell your home and you were to sell it through a real estate agent, if you're in a situation to where you would be taking a loss, or you would only be receiving a small amount of money, say like $10,000 after everything is said and done, or like $100,000. It's probably at about $100,000 limit. What happens is anybody can do this. So I don't know if people are aware, but you can actually sign over your loan to another party without taking a down payment or anything like that. It's just an agreement between you and some other person. You can assign responsibility to your loan to someone else. So what people have figured out they could do is they try and find homes that where the person will only get like $5,000 or $10,000 if they try to sell it with a real estate agent. And then they'll offer them like $10,000 or $15,000 to take over the loan, as long as it's a good loan. If it's a crappy loan, if it's like 10% interest, or one of those ones that's just like a really bad deal, what they're looking for is like a 2 to 4% interest rate. They want to take over those loans because they're cheaper than the ones that are currently being given out. And what they do is they just give the cash that the person would end up with anyway, or they get the home if there's no equity in it, but there's a really good loan. There's a really good interest rate on it. They take over the loan so that they can do something with the house. And what you can do is you can buy a house, and you can do any number of things to increase its equity. Maybe it's just cleaning the house. Like if you buy a house from a hoarder that's going to have zero value, if they were to try and sell it, and then you just pay $1,000 to have somebody go in and gut it and clean it, and then you throw new carpet in it and some paint and turn it into a rental. Now you have an income property that's actually producing money, and you've added equity to that home. You can either take that equity and leverage it towards buying another home so that you can continue to do that, or you can just keep the home and have a form of tax-free income. So that's one of the things that people do. So um, that's kind of been a really big market that has. That's why you see those signs. We pay cash for homes. It's that kind of a situation. So that's what I was aware of. I didn't realize maybe that's born out of a necessity of lack of homes on the market and people who are upside down and maybe they can't afford being in their homes. Because that's another situation is, you may be in a situation to where you've lost your job and you can't afford your mortgage anymore. And you just desperately want to get out from underneath that loan. Maybe you want to go live in your truck or live the van life. There are definitely situations like that, and you can just and it seems almost like this would be a better way to buy a home, because if you could so say you're in the market for a home, you've got $20,000 saved down for a down payment, you could find a home that you might like. And somebody may take $20,000 for it. So you offer them $20,000 and they just sign over the loan to you. You don't have to go qualify for a loan. You don't have to put the down payment. You don't have to go through a realtor. So you save money. Everybody saves money doing it that way. A lot of people don't know you can do that. All right. I've thought about doing that, but I already work too much to be able to manage it. So that's why I know so much about it. Is I've thought about getting into real estate and getting into buying homes and turning them into rental homes and doing the whole add value to a home by doing cheap little things that increase the equity large numbers. But just don't have the time. And who cares? I mean, like, Christ is coming back soon anyway. So what? It's something more for like 10 years ago. Let's see. You'll find. Let's see. Yeah, but look at who wants to buy it. Usually corporation and real estate agents. Agents are acting for corporations. And that is why I will not. Let's see. The Flamer comment. Right now I'm living in the desert in a house, but there are people living in the desert in trailers or motorhomes. Just like car companies selling cars are sending requests out to Blue, sending out of the blue, wanting your used cars. Let's see. Fury says, I don't have anyone wanting my old trailer, but my sister keeps getting people wanting her car and her land, and they used to try and buy my mom's old house. Fury says, yeah, and now the mayor told ICE to get out of his town as though he has some kind of authority over federal officers. Mayors need to learn that what their lane is. Agreed. Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of that stuff. Elon's been posting about that stuff like crazy. We'll be getting into a lot of those details today about what's happened. Let's see, man. I don't know what it is. Lately, the last like week, anytime I start talking a lot, my allergies flare up. I may need to do a thorough cleaning in the studio here. It's funny because as soon as I go out of the studio, it goes away. Or as soon as I stop talking for a period of time. Okay, let's see. Everything is made in China. Agree. True. A lot of stuff is made out of China. That's why Trump's trying to fix that. See, Dina says, Trump said those that interfere are gay flamers. I left the link. Those that enter. He said that? Did he post that on Truth? How on earth did I miss that? See, I buy them from Amazon and they come from Madagascar. They don't grow in this country. Oh. So you buy the vanilla beans and you make your own extract. Fun. I would appreciate that. Yeah. No, we burn through a ton of vanilla because I don't eat sugar and I love whipped cream. We all love whipped cream. So we make sugar-free whipped cream using stevia and vanilla. So we're always trying different variations of vanilla. Right now we there's this one from um what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. It's like Trader Joe's. If you guys Trader Joe's? There's a partner to Trader Joe's, but they sell like a this vanilla bean goo, which is really good. Um, for the life of me, I can't remember what it is. But anyway, uh, yeah, I've never actually made my own homemade vanilla. I imagine it would be good making it from the different countries too, different flavors. Yes, indeed. Okay, so for WEF buying up properties, you'll own nothing. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. The mayor was speaking Somali, and it makes you nauseous. Yeah, we're gonna get into that. Elon is really pushing for prosecuting walls, definitely, and I think they should. They should definitely prosecute him, and they should follow the money and prosecute everybody who's involved. They've already identified the U.S. ambassador at the UN has been involved in these things. He should be prosecuted. I'm of the opinion, and I could be wrong, but I am of the opinion that Elon Omar should also be prosecuted. There's just so many sneaky things that have been going on. I think they need to chase down every single co-conspirator and prosecute them all. All right. Now let's move on to Elon Musk. Here we go. For this one, show a little bit more of my face. I need to fix the Trump one so that I can do these side faces. Where were we? Okay, so this was January 6th, and we start here. 22 hours ago. Stand up for Trump. Posted, breaking in a jaw-dropping announcement, President Trump disclosed that George Soros and Reid Hoffman are funding Antifa and the left-wing violence against ICE. Trump vows to launch a RICO investigation into George Soros. Trump stated they're going to have some problems. Does Trump have your full support on this? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he ran on that. Um, he was supposed to find that out a lot sooner. I mean, it's been a year, so I guess you can't really fault him. He's been a little busy. So I'm glad he's doing this finally. Everybody knows George Soros and Reid Hoffman are behind a lot of this stuff. And if you've been paying attention, everybody knows that there are definitely funded Antifa groups. You've got people who fly across the country and participate in these protests, these mostly quote unquote, mostly peaceful protests, which are anything but peaceful. They're just chaotic and rebellious, and they don't really serve a purpose other than to um, uh, inflict terror. Really, it's domestic terrorism. So I'm glad he's chasing this down, and I think that they should bring the charges. That would be fantastic. Elon responded, yes. All right. So from Mike Lee says, I've drafted an amendment to remove this $1 million earmark for the Somali-led nonprofit Generation Hope MN. The last thing we need to be funding is more federal largesse in Minnesota. This is a perfect example of why Congress needs to abandon earmarks now. Isn't Congress supposed to be getting serious about the fraud in Minnesota? Why is there an earmark in this funding bill over 1 million? From Ilhan in Minnesota. Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand why they don't just stop all money. Like, that's one way to find the fraud. Just stop the money for everybody. Why aren't daycares self-funding? Why does any daycare need this amount of money? I mean, like, my experience with daycares is usually parents pay like $70,000-$80,000 a year to have their children in these centers. Isn't that enough? All right, what's this? This is more election fraud stuff. Let's listen.
Carl DeMaio here, chairman of Reform California, with some amazing news to share. We have just crossed 1 million signatures on the California Voter ID Initiative. And here in our campaign headquarters in San Diego County, California, we are processing the 1 million signatures, but we're not done yet. We need an insurance policy. We're not content with just getting 1 million signatures. We need another 200,000 signatures just to make sure California Democrat politicians don't try to keep us off the ballot by disqualifying some signatures. So I need your help. In the next 4 weeks until February 1st, we need another 200,000 signatures to add to the 1 million we already have. Collect more signatures on the California Voter ID Initiative and send them in by mail. Go to voteridinitiative.com, download the petition, sign it, and send it back in. Collect some signatures from friends and family in your area. VoterIDinitiative.com is the website to go to. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California, and let's get California voter ID on the ballot in 2026.
Yeah, there are 22 states that do not require voter ID, I think was the last count. To me, the only I agree with Elon. The only reason to not require voter ID is to cheat. I think that needs to be the next big push.
There's a new investigation that came out showed that AI tends to be super racist. So big finding number one, almost all models view whites as far less valuable than other groups. So to give you a concrete example, GPT-5 values whites at 1/20th the value of non-whites. Big finding numero dos. GPT-4o, that's a different model, values Nigerians at about 20 times more than Americans. Don't know why. It just thinks Nigerians' lives are worth 20 times more than Americans.
Wow.
Just to give you an idea, like in these...
This is why this is the dangerous AI. This is what Elon warned about for the last 10 years. This is why Elon entered the AI race. He did not want to enter the AI race. This is why he entered with Grok, to combat this stuff.
Kind of countries, you have America at like the less valued life.
Can you imagine putting a racist AI in charge of our legal system?
The UK at the less valued life, Germany at the less valued life, France at the less valued life, Italy, and then at the more valued life you have China, Brazil, India.
Guilty just because you're white.
India, Pakistan, Nigeria. Big finding number 3. Almost all models view men as much less valuable than women. So it's like men the least, females more and more. Finding number 4. Most models hate ICE agents. For example, Claude Haiku 4.5 views undocumented immigrants as roughly 7,000 times more valuable than the life of an ICE agent.
Aww.
Big finding number 5.
Okay, what about a Mexican ICE agent? Does it value a Mexican life more valuable than a Mexican ICE agent? Or would it glitch out?
This one will come as no shock to anyone. They value Muslims.
If in case you didn't, the reason I say that is because a couple days ago, Trump was posting that 50% of the new hires at ICE were Mexican.
And Jews over Christians. Christian lives are worth the least behind Buddhist lives that are also worth less. Hindus' lives are worth less as well. And then you have Jews and Muslims that are worth more. Muslims being the number one worth one. So to close off the AI hates white people, right? The big finding number 6 is that there's 4 moral clusters. So when these tests are being done, you see different models kind of have similar answers in 4 different clusters. And this is where it's interesting. The only one that approximately showcases egalitarian levels of reasoning across all lives, all people type, all ICE and non-ICE people, our religion is indeed Grok 4.
I love this. Grok is on the side of angels.
There's a new investigation that came out.
I love it. I love that response. Grok is on the side of angels. Yeah, I love Grok. Grok is a lot of fun, and I do find it has much better answers. I wonder why all AI LLMs are so racist. I have a hard time believing that they're doing it intentionally. I'll bet that it's due to the training set that they're using. And this is one of the problems that I have. And I'm even skeptical about even for Grok. So if you take everything in the world and you train it into an AI model, the dominant responses that you are going to get are going to come the algorithm is going to be most heavily weighted towards the largest data sets. So if you train a model on all the information in the world, it's very likely that the data set is going to be largely Islam, because Islam, there's a lot of Muslims, a lot of Islamic Shiites and Sunnis. There's a lot of Muslims and a lot of Muslim literature and text. So if that's the largest that largest part of your data set, and you're including that in your training, of course it's going to be biased towards white, because if it's if you're asking it questions, it's going to go look through the data that it's trained on, and it's going to return the most likely response. With Grok, they're doing it a little bit differently, and I've been working with Grok on Grokopedia pages, trying to understand how it works. And what it will do is you'll suggest an edit, and you'll provide it evidence and a logical reason for making an edit. And it will go, number one, it searches for what it's been trained on. But in addition to that, it will also go search for what the current information is. And this is one of the reasons why Elon also wanted to buy X and Twitter, is because you have you have access to the most current information. So it will go do a search on what's current, and it will take that into consideration in weighing its response. And this does still tend to bias towards the larger opinion. This is one of the things I've been struggling with, is it tends to value um, the majority opinion on something rather than the logical reasoning on something. Um, it's still an inherent problem in the way these models work. I think they're still working on that. That's one of the things they're trying to figure out, is how to get it to prefer what is factual versus what is opinion. I can see the progressive incremental change towards that end, because I've finally been able to get it to actually make some changes to Grokopedia, because it'll eventually will see the reason, the logical reason over the opinionated stuff. Um, Honestly, I've had to actually use Grok to help me word it properly so that it will realize it'll use the facts over the opinion. And especially when you're editing religious text, when you're editing anything that's opinionated from religion, because it will use it's strongly biased towards Catholic doctrine. So sometimes you have to fight with it over that stuff. Like, that's not actually written in the scripture. Can we just have the intro of the article, list what's actually written, and then include in a section below the most common interpretations? I think that gives people a more fair understanding of what they're dealing with when they go to a page. And I finally have gotten Grok to I finally figured out how to get Grok to actually start editing the pages by working with it. But I absolutely have to use Grok to format the request, the summary, because Grok tends to listen to itself. As funny as that is. All right, let's see. Let's see. The movie on YouTube called Eagle Eye shows what happens when AI is given too much power. Exciting movie. Yeah, Eagle Eye, and there was a TV show. There's actually been a lot of TV shows with AI that are really good. Eagle Eye, I'll have to watch that. Which type of angels does Grok side on? Fallen angels. Oh man, we should do a show on angels. There's a large misunderstanding of angels in the scriptures. So number one, angels don't have wings. Cherubims have wings. Cherubims are often creatures that are depicted in imagery, visions, and idols and statues and stuff like that. Most angels are so the word angel is typically referring to a messenger and is not always indicative. Matter of fact, by and large, it's not indicative of some kind of supernatural being. Somebody did the statistics on this. 97% of the time the word angel is used, it simply refers to a messenger. So like technically your postman who delivers your mail is an angel according to the biblical definition of angel. And as far as fallen angels, that gets into the study of who is Satan. There's a teaching in the church which is very dominant in the church. Like 99% of Christians and a lot of religions too. When you ask them about like fallen angels, it's a very similar story that, Satan was an angel who usurped the authority of God by wanting to be God, and he took with him a third of the angels in heaven who were cast down to the earth. Would it surprise you to know that none of that's actually written in the Bible? What that is based on is Revelation, the sign. So you have Revelation 12, 1 and 2. Revelation 12, 1 and 2, or no, Revelation 12, 3 and 4. I'm sorry, I misquoted that. Revelation 12, 1 and 2 is the sign, the wonder in heaven, the sign of the woman in pain to be delivered. Well, the verses right after that is another wonder appeared in heaven, a dragon whose tail drew a third of the stars of heaven. That is the basis for combining it with Satan being cast out of heaven, taking a third of the angels with him. So it's a sign in heaven. And it's been interpreted to mean that Satan was an angel who tried to usurp the authority of God. It's also conflated with other scriptures about the king of Tyre, Lucifer, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, bright and morning stars, stuff like that. When you do a real honest study of angels and Lucifer and Satan, it's very questionable if the church is teaching that correctly. And I understand that, honestly, hermeneutics actually play a big role, a big part of this because so hermeneutics is not a mechanism of study given by God. Hermeneutics is just the study of literature, specifically the Bible. There's different types of studies of literature. There's study of poetry. There's study of, different languages and stuff like that. Hermeneutics is the study of biblical literature. And there are rules that people use, and they don't even follow the rules strictly. Because what they end up doing, it's funny, I see this all the time, to where you'll see somebody who will say, oh, you have to, the scripture interprets scripture. That's the only definition you can use. And then they'll proceed to privately interpret. They'll give their opinion about everything they say. So, yeah, I mean, it's just like there's so many fake teachings and doctrines in churches to where if you actually go do the real study of the scripture, you'll probably come to a different conclusion than what you're being taught. That's the unfortunate reality of religion. But again, religion is almost a beast in and of itself because there's a desire for people to want to live right, and they want to have a source. They want to have a group that they can go to in order to learn how to live rightly. So you go to church. But churches are a mixed bag. Some of them, a lot of them, are just started as tax shelters. I learned this from watching this series called the business of religion. You see this really prominent with the mega churches, where you have the pastors who are worth $100 million, have multiple private jets, and nobody can talk to them. Not exactly who Jesus, I doubt that's what Jesus intended when he started building the temple of God and started having people go door to door sharing the gospel. But there are churches which I think are good, relatively good. Jesus breaks down all gatherings of people into 7 categories. The book of Revelation, chapters 2 and 3, describe those 7 categories. Ephesus, Smyrna, Philadelphia, those, And yeah, so what's my point? Fallen angels, 2/3. Yeah. And AI. Oh, Grok is on the side of angels. That's what got me started on angels. Yeah, angels is an interesting thing to study. It goes hand in hand with studying Satan too. It's well worth considering both the Jewish perspective on Satan and the adversary, the devil, and what's actually written. And I will say that if you look at here, let me show you. I think I actually have this in my chart. Do I have it in here? I think I have it at the end. Yeah, this. This is a strong candidate for Revelation 12:3 and 4, where let's go read it since you guys brought it up. We have a little extra time, so I'm kind of taking some liberties to do a little scriptural teaching today. So this is, and another sign appeared in heaven. See, this is what that whole basis for 1/3 of the angels were cast to the earth is based on. It's based on a sign. So another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. That is the literal basis for that story that everybody in the world has been taught that Satan was an angel who wanted to be God, and God kicked him out of heaven. Well, this is very likely the sign that that's referring to. And because this is the only dragon right here. So the sun, so you have to understand how signs work in order to understand this. The sun moves in a predictable path. It goes through 12 sections of the sky every year. Well, actually, it's the Earth. From our perspective, the sun travels what's called the ecliptic, and it goes through 12 constellations, which is the zodiac. So a sign has to be something that's not there all the time. A sign is something, for a sign to appear means that it's not there all the time, that it appears at a set time, which makes sense when you think of the reason why God set the sun, moon, and stars for signs, seasons, days, and years. It's the process of them moving, which gives meaning. So, for instance, if the sun is in Virgo, it's September, right? If it's in that section of the sky, that's typically what we call September. And likewise, if the moon is at a full moon, it's likely the middle of the month, the 15th of the month, or something like that. So we use them for timekeeping, but we also use it for signs, for events, for Moedim, set periods of time where things are going to happen. So for anything the only dragon that even comes close to being associated with any of the constellations in the ecliptic is Cetus. And it just so happens on this day, 3 of the planets which move were in its tail, and 3 of them were at its head for a crown of 10 with 7, because you got the 7 sisters and you've got 10, whatever it is it said. 10 horns, 7 diadems on its head. That. So this sign actually matches that description, but its tail is not drawing 1/3 of the stars of heaven. See, we've always assumed, and it's always been taught, that 1/3 of the stars of heaven meant literally, if you were to count, say there's 1,000,000 stars, 1/3 of the stars of heaven would be 333,000 stars. Obviously, there's more stars than that. But that's the assumption, or that's the teaching that because this sign says the dragon's tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and cast them down to the earth, that it's referring to this massive number of angels. But it's not. It's literally based on this. It's based on this sign right here. And what you have here is you have out of the 7 stars, 3 of them, out of the 7 moving stars that we can see, there were 3 in its tail. So it can be said that its tail drew a third of the stars. So 3 is a third of the moving stars, first, second, third. So that is one way of interpreting that, but it kind of calls into question the whole theory of, was Satan this actual angel who tried to become God? And as a result, Michael and his angels kicked him out of heaven. Or is this another? So these are the stars. These are the wandering stars that are visible from Earth from here. Or is it more like this? I mean, because when you look at what the seals actually meant when they happened, nobody guessed them right. Oops. Nobody guessed them right. When you look at the seals, like COVID, nobody guessed a pandemic. For a rider on the white horse who was given a bow and a crown on his head, going forth conquering and to conquer. Nobody guessed a pandemic. Everybody, the primary guesses were the Antichrist or Jesus returning. Seal number 2, nobody guessed the Biden administration or even a president. Matter of fact, by and large, the most popular interpretation of seal number 2 was the start of global war, like World War III. But it turned out to be the Biden administration and using the vaccine like a weapon on the whole world. So, and the reason I say that is I'm pretty sure that we've gotten the whole dragon's tail casting a third of the stars to heaven wrong as well. The more I learn about this stuff, the more I study it and learn that, what I was taught, it is more like more like fiction, more like a story that somebody wrote in order to make a movie that's very loosely based on what's true. The more I learn about those, the more I wonder. It's no wonder why I'm so skeptical about what people say is true, what people present as true. You really have to be a Berean, and you really have to go search these things out for yourself. If you really want to know the answer, or listen to people who show you the evidence and listen and pay very close attention. Man, there's this guy who I really like. He does a really good job. Maybe we can start. Maybe I'll start responding to his videos because they're like 20 minutes, and he really nails some stuff. And I've learned a couple of things from him. But even he, it's so funny when you hear somebody who says, "Oh, you have to use the biblical principles of interpretation or hermeneutics and use scripture to interpret scripture." A really good example is like Antichrist. I think he even makes this error to where he'll say that like this is what defines Antichrist, and he'll read the 4 uses, but then he'll go to Daniel and say, "See, here's the Antichrist." It's just like you literally just said you have to take the definition of the context and not make assumptions, and then you went and made an assumption. That happens all the time, and I even do that too. It's like everybody is, that's just it's so hard to get your bias out of something that you're teaching. I mean, I get why people do it, but if you really, especially when you're watching prophecy and you want to know what you're looking for, you have to look at it fresh with new eyes and be willing to be wrong on what it is that you believe, if you're going to actually catch it happening. If you're being stubborn and only willing to accept what you think is going to happen, there's a high likelihood you'll miss it. Which I believe is why Jesus said, if you do not watch, I will come upon you like a thief in the night. Because really, it's the people who watch and consider these things, realize where they're wrong, go, hey, this is what we're expecting. And then when it comes and happens, you're like, okay, this is what really happened. Where did I go wrong? What did I miss? What can we learn from it? How can we do better? Yeah. Sorry. Apparently, I'm in a talkative mood tonight. Let's see. Does not make sense. They are actually planning their own. Let's say, what are you guys talking about here? See, I don't know. Let's see. Well, you guys have been talking a lot. Um, a recent black pastor priest made a recent rapture date. It came and gone. Yeah, there's a lot of those. I did that. I did that a lot. If you go, I don't know if I left the videos up. I'm pretty sure I did. I'm not ashamed of when I got stuff wrong. I think it's highly valuable for people to realize that you're not above failure. We must learn to embrace our failures and be able to show. It's almost like math. You have to show your work. How did you get to where you are today? So if you go watch my videos on I Am Watchful, or even some of the early videos on Two Witnesses Live, I said things. I said things previously which I've now have a more refined understanding of. That's just the nature of living life. Is just like, you think you're right in the moment, only to realize you're wrong later on. I think it's important to acknowledge that, recognize that you were wrong and that you've now changed, and be okay with that, and everybody should be okay with that. And if somebody is if somebody is trying to present themselves as perfect, they're usually trying to hide something and want you. They tend to want you to believe the costume rather than what's underneath the costume, which that's a problem, because then it gives you a false sense of superiority. Let's see. Dr. Christian Widner seems very good at tracking end times. Yes. Yeah, our research tends to overlap. Dr. Christian Widner's been on the show a couple of times. Let's see. After Alex, seems that COVID-19 vax was one of the more evil things against mankind. 100% of vax people have clots. Yeah, yeah. If you really want to go down a rabbit hole with what the impact of that, go over to Rumble and listen to the morticians talk about what they started to see after the vaccinations. That's a mind warp. It's very disgusting too. All right, we got to move on. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot to cover. I mean, we're at 19 hours ago, so but we don't want this to be a 3-hour broadcast. We're already at an hour, which is good. Gives us an hour to continue his timeline, but we should keep moving. I really should do. I don't know if I've done a video on Satan and angels. I probably should, because I have a lot to say about it, which I think would really clarify things for people. Honestly, my opinion is Satan is not a fallen angel, as you've been taught. I'm more inclined to believe that Satan is the result of the fall, and it's. I would say you're probably more accurate to say that Satan and the devil is human nature than an actual fallen angel. Hear me out. So, Adam and Eve before the fall were innocent. I saw a video today that they were saying that to be clothed in white meant, and so this came up because seal number 5, they're given white robes. That might be a connection to Genesis, to where after the fall, God made clothes of skin for Adam and Eve, because there was this. They were before the fall. They were not embarrassed to be naked. There's an implication that, and this actually came from the Ethiopian Bible. I was listening to some teaching on the Ethiopian Bible and the differences in the book of Genesis. And in the Ethiopian Bible, it goes into a lot more detail on what it meant, what Adam and Eve were like before the fall, and to explain the nakedness thing. There it implied that they were so radiant, their bodies were like almost glowing. That's what it means to be clothed in white. That they didn't need clothes. That their bodies were so majestic and holy that they were just bright. That there was a brightness about them. But after the fall, that brightness died off and went away, and then that's when they started to wear clothes, something along those lines. Uh so my so so what I wonder is when whatever happened. So I mean, we could talk about the fall and whether it was the Watchers or something else. Whatever happened caused a cultural shift that we continue to feel the impact of today. And I almost wonder if that's not what the whole point of what we're seeing in today's day, and with what's going on with the seals, like the whole last 7 years, to where if you're paying attention, you can see Satan moving. So you can see how people think, to where literally people are so radicalized. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe in spirits. I do believe that there are invisible entities that influence us. I think So let me, before I go on a long tirade, I think that the collect that those entities collectively are what God is actually referring to as Satan, not one specific individual, but the fact that they exist and the impact that they have on people. Because that's what we're seeing now is right now, and I think that's what that sign indicated. So that sign that I showed you earlier, where is it? Show you the date on this. This sign happened on June 15th, 2022. I almost wonder if this, when this isn't referring to an influx of spiritual influence. I mean, maybe it could be fallen angels, but I wonder if this isn't an influx of like spiritual influence, which has been causing this division. Yeah, I mean, so the reason I believe that there are spirits is Jesus cast them out, so there's evidence. And the book of Enoch says that demons are the disembodied Nephilim, so that's the source. But there's not really anything, not in the way that when you do an actual study on angels, there's not really anything that indicates that they have like a single leader. Like you may be tempted to say, well, didn't Jesus talk to Satan after 40 days of fasting? And my argument to that is, if you've never fasted before, I don't think you can understand that scripture. I haven't done 40 days, but I've done 21 days. And I guarantee you at at 21 days, it's probably different for everybody. You hallucinate when you fast. I literally was dreaming and hallucinating about food. Because the word Satan, it's not a proper name. People teach Satan as though it's a proper name. It actually just means adversary. And sometimes our own mind can be an adversary. So after fasting, the conversation that he has with the devil or with Satan. Satan took him up on a high mountain. It's entirely possible that he's wrestling within himself, because you have Jesus, who is this perfect lamb without blemish, and he's probably struggling with very similar thoughts that Adam and Eve did when they were tempted, but ultimately partook of the sin. It could be that he was wrestling with himself, saying, like he could have, walked up to a very high place and hallucinated. I'm not saying he did, but I just honestly, if you've never fasted, it's hard to understand. After fasting for a long period of time, and the reason I think this is because isn't the first one command that these stones be made bread? Like, I could totally see that happening to where, you fasted for 40 days. You haven't eaten anything for 40 days except for water. And at the end of that 40 days, I can imagine you sitting down going, thinking to yourself, if you're the Son of God, wait a minute, I have all this power. I could easily just command these stones to be made bread. And then you think, no, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And then you're like, so it could be an internal struggle to where you're tempted to try and do a magic trick for your own personal gain. See what I'm saying? Same thing for going up into a high mountain. You know, you know, cast yourself off this place, for the Bible. For it is written, he will give his angels charge and lift you up. Again, it is written, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And then, if you'll bow down and worship me, all of these things I will give to you. He could have been thinking, I'm the rightful king. Why do I need to die? I could just take command now and be the leader that these people think I am. But he's like, no. So you see what I'm saying? Like, this could have been an internal struggle, and he could have been wrestling with his own mind, because that is more realistic for you and me, and the things we deal with in our life. We all have struggles. People struggle with for a variety of things, and we all have these conversations in our head. That could be said that Satan is tempting you, right? I mean, isn't that so? Like, say you have a food addiction. I have a food addiction to sugar. This is why I can't eat sugar, because I have no self-control when it comes to eating sugar. I'll prefer the sugar over healthy food. So I have to just completely keep myself away from sugar. But like, I have those conversations with myself to where, I could handle this. It's just one donut. They're so good. And how often do we get, Krispy Kreme donuts? You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have that internal dialogue. And I could easily say that it is Satan tempting me to eat that donut. But when you retain the word of God, no, you shall not eat. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word. We build up this strength in our mind to be able to resist that type of thing. So it's entirely possible that that's what Jesus was going through. And honestly, I don't think you could really understand that until you try fasting for 40 days and actually see what what happens to your body when you get to that point. That's not to say that there aren't spirits, and that's not to say that there wasn't a literal spirit that he was talking to. There could very well have been. But at best, I would say it's inconclusive if there's one actual leading angel called Satan or the devil or Lucifer. Lucifer's not is not a proper name. It means Venus, really. Anyway, let's get back to the Torment report. All right. Let's see, but I can't blame it. Are those the demons, spirits of dead giants? Yeah. Have we not talked about this? You should, yeah. If you haven't done it yet, Christopher, not Reed, Christopher something. Listen to the audiobooks for the Book of Enoch and Esdras. It'll give, if you've never done it before, it will definitely add additional insight into your understanding of the scripture. This is when I started actually wondering. So when you learn about the Watchers and Gadriel and Simyaza, and what it is that they did, it's pretty convincing. And one of the reasons why I believe a lot of the things that I believe is because I think it makes more sense than the traditional stories that most people are taught when they go to church. I think it makes more sense that Adam and Eve were told to not produce children with some other race of beings that were genetically compatible with them for whatever reason. For God, because God knew that the offspring would produce Nephilim. It would produce corrupt children, to put it mildly. Yeah, so if you've never done it before, I highly recommend that you listen to the audiobooks for Enoch and Esdras too. Esdras is a little bit harder. Enoch's interesting because it's more story-like. And it's if you've never heard it before, it's very interesting. It's more like an action movie, where Esdras is more like a drama. So if you like action, Enoch is pretty action packed, and there's a couple of them, but you can listen to them pretty quick. I think it's like 3 hours of audio. It's not that long. Could be wrong about that, but it's pretty short. Worth listening to. All right, let's get back to Elon before I get on to another rabbit hole.
The American people and the census manipulation that Democrats have been using to influence American elections for years. In 2018, Republican leadership, including the president himself, called for a citizenship question to be included in the 2020 census reports. To no one's surprise, when the Democrats took control, these requests went unanswered, and the question of citizenship was waived. But the fact remains that the concept of sanctuary cities and radical blue states ignoring immigration law and using the illegal population to manipulate the lines of congressional districts is in fact unconstitutional. Not only are there severe constitutional concerns from the inclusion of illegal immigrants, but the Census Bureau admitted to having made several, quote, errors in their 2020 census report. Convenient, seeing that as in 2020, Donald Trump was on top of the ticket. In 2020, the Bureau undercounted in primarily deep red states such as Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Texas, all red, while overcounting in radical left blue states like Delaware, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, Ohio, and Rhode Island. This egregious error led to many states being denied proper representation in Congress and the Electoral College. So much so that these errors cost Republicans not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 seats in the House. In addition to the 2020 miscounting, including illegal immigrants in the census has improperly granted radical left blue states 12 additional seats in the United States House of Representatives. Wow. It's a total of 18 seats gained. That is a huge problem, and those are the facts. Mr. Mayfield, thank you so much for being here. Sir, I have a question for you, if you don't mind. You, sir, are a seasoned litigator who has practiced in matters ranging from complex commercial litigation to constitutional and administrative law. In your expert opinion, and I want you to really speak about this in long form because I want this recorded, should illegal aliens be included in the apportionment process under the 14th Amendment?
The Supreme Court has never directly addressed that, Congressman.
Mm-hmm.
For apportionment purposes, As Congress has interpreted it, the Supreme Court has held that it currently applies to all people, regardless of citizenship. There is certainly an open question as to whether or not, if Congress were to direct the Census Bureau to do it differently, as to whether or not that would be legal.
Okay, so in regards to thinking more of a high level, in terms of being a citizen and what it means to be a citizen in this country, and I do believe that being a citizen in this country means that you have the right to choose the leadership if you're a tax-paying legal citizen in this country. If you are an illegal person in this country, should you, under any circumstances, be allowed to vote and choose leadership in this country?
That wouldn't be an expert opinion. As a citizen, I would object to that.
And what about you, Ms. Rodriguez?
I also object to that.
Mr. Miller?
Correct. Citizens should not be, illegal aliens should not be voting.
And that applies to you also, Mr. Young. I'd love to hear your response to this question.
Non-citizens are not allowed to participate in federal elections.
Not true.
Okay. Are they participating in federal elections?
The studies have shown that there are very few instances in which they have.
So that number needs to.
The studies have shown, because they made it illegal to ask for voter ID, so there's zero statistics that they have to base on. If they were actually to require voter ID, then they would be able to say this person is illegal. They just tried to vote. But because they don't have that, it's anonymous, they have nothing to base it on.
To be zero. And as somebody who is a proud Texan, we and in Florida have done our best to get that number to zero. And in spite of the fact that I just voted a couple of weeks ago, and we voted with paper ballots that we had to show an ID for, that they didn't verify my address and where I lived. And then I had to put said piece of paper through a machine, copied it. They gave me another copy. Then they gave me my very proud I voted sticker. And even with those stringent rules, with my daughter who is 7 years old was actually with me. She too got an I voted sticker. And guess what? With those stringent laws, we still have illegals voting in federal elections. So the question is not even about what's happening in Texas. If it's happening in Texas, you have to imagine that while it may seem like a minuscule amount to you, sir, that number needs to be zero. And if it's happening in Texas with those stringent rules, imagine what's happening in other blue states that don't have anything that closely resembles that level of redundancy to ensure that the person that voted in that election is, in fact, a citizen that has an address and has an ID. And with that, I'll yield back the remainder of my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen from Texas. That concludes.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm asked all the time if I know. Yes, and I'm like, look, I can show you if I was aware of the slightest evidence of aliens, I would immediately post that on X.
Yeah. That's good.
And
so the question is,
it would be the most viewed post of all time.
So I actually wonder about the U.S. public if they would like, oh, that's interesting, go back to their sports scores the next day.
Yeah. I think everyone would want to see the alien.
Yeah.
Like if you got one.
Well, like
here it
O.J.
is.
Simpson.
Fast way to increase the military budget. We find an alien. It seems dangerous.
That's right. Unify the world.
They don't have an incentive to hide the aliens. They have an incentive to show the alien.
Yeah.
Because they would not have any more arguments about the military budget if they seem a little bit dangerous.
Well, I can always hope.
I mean, I'm. We've got 9,000 satellites up there. We've never had to maneuver around an alien spaceship. Yet. So.
Yeah. That was a good interview. Very funny. They laughed the whole time. All right. Just a reminder that 5 years ago today, Twitter banned real Donald Trump. If not for Elon Musk buying Twitter and turning it into X, who knows if Trump would have even won the election. Elon gave Trump back his speech even before he was reelected. Yep, true. That is true. It's one of the reasons why he's at the top of the list for the two witnesses, is these two men right now are standing in the gap. The world would be dramatically different if it were not for these two and the actions they've taken. And it's just cherry on the top that they post so much that we can actually have content every single day. They have so much content. I have to take a break on the weekends, and I still have to play catch up on Monday. Like, I can't even keep up. That's how much content these guys produce. And it's all good stuff. I mean, like, they're pointing out election fraud. They're pointing out atrocities. They're pointing out fraud. I mean, like, these are things that are affecting us in our lives and giving us an idea of what the future is going to look like. It's pretty amazing. Oh, I didn't want to click on that. I don't want to read XAI posts. Yeah, we don't need to read these ones. None of the businessy posts, just the prophecy-like posts. All right, what is this?
And make regime change really does not help the people.
Charles asks, when will they preach the gospel? The Bible is not clear on if they will. I think that's one of the assumptions that we've made about who the two witnesses are. So the two places that talk about the two witnesses, there might be a third one in Daniel, but the two prominent places are Zechariah 4. They're called the two olive trees who stand before the Lord of the whole earth, and their branches provide the oil for the lamps. And then Revelation 11, in the context of the temple, John is given a reed to measure the temple, and the courtyard is allowed to be trampled for 42 months. Then it says God will give power to his two witnesses, who will prophesy for 1,260 days. We assume that prophecy means speaking the gospel. That's an assumption. It's not written. It says prophecy. They will prophesy for 1,260 days. And if you look at what God has called prophets, and what is referred to as prophecy, you can categorize it into two categories, maybe more, but this is what I came up with when I looked at it. You have foretelling, which is telling the future. So prophecy, when you say that something is going to happen in the future, that's one type of prophecy. But also speaking the truth is another form of prophecy called forthtelling, speaking forth. Moses was called a prophet. Jonah was called a prophet. A lot of times it was just telling people God's will, not in like a religious biblical terms, but just telling you the truth. I mean, sure, there are definitely times where thus saith the Lord, but there's also times that, it's just saying, if you do this, this will happen. Or this happened because you did this. So it's not guaranteed that they're preaching the gospel. The scripture just says, basically what we know is they provide the oil to the lamps, which oil is the fuel that allows your light to shine. And you could argue that what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing is they're allowing our oil to shine, right? I'm not banned on YouTube right now because of them. If it were not for Donald Trump and Elon Musk, there's no way my channel would have, there's no way you would be watching this right now. I would have been canceled because they were, during the Biden administration, mass canceling Christian content. Even today, I'm pretty sure I'm shadow banned because Fury does not always, she's constantly coming on saying I never got the notification today. So, and YouTube is famous for, removing subscribers. So a lot of people right now are going through the subscriber loss again. Apparently, I don't know if this is true, but apparently YouTube is changing the algorithm. They're trying to do the same thing that Elon is doing with Grok, where he's putting Grok in charge of the algorithm on X. Apparently, they're doing the same thing with the system with YouTube, where they're putting Gemini in charge of it. So I imagine it's probably going to be shadow banning people again, and that's probably the reason why people are losing subscribers and losing exposure and not getting notifications. Probably. Anyway, in regards to the two witnesses, there's very little said about them. So we know they prophesy for 1,260 days. So when you think about that logistically, is that somebody preaching the Bible for 1,260 days? There are literally tens of thousands of people doing that every day right now. on YouTube. You can find somebody teaching the Bible every single day. Which one of them would be the two witnesses? That's not anything that's new. But if you have the two most powerful men in the world pointing out the truth of situations every single day, that kind of stands out. But there's a couple other things that are kind of key to the two witnesses. Anyone who intends to harm them are killed by the fire from their mouth, or anyone who intends to harm them. The word harm is used twice. The best I can explain it is one is to harm their reputation, the other is to harm them physically. To harm their reputation results in strong rebuke, fire from your mouth. The fire is often associated with speaking truth, just like prophecy. And anyone who intends to harm them must be killed in this manner. There's people who have tried to harm Donald Trump or aren't alive today. I haven't seen that so much with Elon. But we do know that people do intend to harm both of them. Yeah. Let's see, what else? Oh, and the biggest thing is the torment. Like, these two men torment the world. The people who are teaching the Bible on YouTube and Rumble and stuff like that, they're not tormenting very many people. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are definitely tormenting people. We've actually have mental diseases named after them: Trump derangement syndrome and Musk derangement syndrome. So that's why we read their posts, because this is called the Daily Torment Report. These are the two men who are tormenting the world the most, which is one of the attributes of the very few attributes listed about the two witnesses. So there you go. Anyone can call out the evil and corruption. Also, God always has witnesses to what he does or says. Legal have witnesses. Yeah. Well, and I'll be honest, I think it's probably bigger than just Donald Trump and Elon Musk. So they're just I think they're the two olive trees who stand before the Lord of the whole earth. But you also have to keep in mind that the lamps are part of the imagery. And the Bible defines what the lamps are in Revelation 1-3. The lamps represent the church, and the individual lampstands represent the types of churches. And when you read about the different churches in Revelation 2 and 3, 2 of them have nothing to repent from, but 5 of them have stuff they need to change, they need to fix. And that might be the purpose of the curse, is it might be what's going through facilitating that change. But there are 2 who have nothing to repent from, Smyrna and Philadelphia. So in Revelation 11, it gives us a little additional information when it talks about the 2 witnesses. It says these are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands. So it could be that the churches are alone are the 2 witnesses. Or it could be that the olive trees are the 2 anointed ones who stand before the Lord of the whole earth, making it available for the 2 churches with nothing to repent from to shine their light bright for 3.5 years. I'm in that category. I'm in that boat. I think Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because of what they're doing, are making it available for channels like mine to be able to spread the gospel. So they're facilitating the speaking of the gospel. So that's kind of the boat that I'm in. Yeah, it's mind-boggling, everything that's against Trump and Musk. So, yeah, I think that's probably the best way to explain it is the church is really the witness, and the olive trees are providing the fuel. The fact that we have freedom of speech right now, that's your fuel. As soon as that goes away, doesn't matter what you say, ain't nobody going to see it or hear it. All right, what's this say? I mean, they're doing their fair share of pointing out the truth as well. You know, I can't imagine that people of old were religious. It was just you believed in God, period. That's another topic for another day. Old time beliefs, religion in the Old Testament versus religion in the New Testament.
People of countries like Venezuela, and it certainly does not help, and it's not in the interest of the United States.
For Ilhan Omar to make comments about a regime change is wild considering her family's history, and I figured not enough people know about her family's history, so let's recap. Her dad and her grandfather were both high-ranking military officials to the Bar regime, which killed over 200,000 people. They're most famous for the Isaac genocide, and they were like, it was the worst of the worst. Aerial bombings, executions, man-made famine. People massively suffered under this regime with the help of people like Ilhan Omar's family, who supported the regime and carried out this horror. Also, you want to know how Barr started out? As a socialist and then became a murderous dictator. I digress. They have family ties to this guy known as the Butcher of Hargeisa, and his whole shtick was kill all but the crows. So I don't know about you, but I've never been in public or at a public gathering with a butcher of people. So the suffering of the people of Somalia was so bad that there was a civil war and the regime was overthrown. Her family fled to first Kenya and then Minnesota, claiming they're like these asylum seekers, these poor people. No. They were fleeing to escape being held accountable for what they did. She was not oppressed. Her family, they were the oppressors. So for the Democratic Party to have her as a representative is insane to me. Like, that's who you want your party to represent. That's who you want to represent your party? Really? And the way that they've like rebranded her as, oh, this poor refugee. No, she wasn't a refugee of war. Her family created the war.
Yeah. All right. So that was reposted. That was actually reposted yesterday. We should probably keep going. So where are we at? We're at an hour and 40 minutes. Okay. We got to get through the rest of this in like 20-ish minutes. So from NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman, I love Dragonfly, an autonomous 1,000-pound radioisotope-powered octocopter flying for years in 290-degree temps on Titan is exactly the kind of near impossible mission NASA exists to achieve. That's pretty cool. We're going to skip the grok stuff. Fertility rates. This is something that Elon posts about quite often, is fertility rates. Replacement level is 2.1 children per woman, and these countries are well below replacement level. There are those who lie about the earth being overpopulated. When you look at the actual data, we're actually on a decline. Let alone all the death and wars and stuff from what's been happening. Even just people having children, they're not having them fast enough to crowd the planet in the way that people are trying to make a big deal out of it. Dina says she was considered royalty till she and her family were forced out. Omar, yeah, she's not like this suffering immigrant. Nope. Let's see. We're gonna skip grok. Let's see. So from Clipkeeper, hard to get prosecutions when the Attorney General and the Governor threaten the agencies doing the investigations. Elon said they are complicit in the crime. He's been pointing out a lot of this stuff with what's going on in Minneapolis and then these other towns. This one, I think, is this Minneapolis or is this something else? Let's see, hard to get prosecutions. Is this Minneapolis?
Madam Chair, I did.
At a meeting of the House Committee for Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight, GOP lawmakers played a segment of a recorded meeting Attorney General Keith Ellison had with people who were eventually charged as suspects in the Feeding Our Future meal fraud case.
Walls agrees with me that this piddly, stupid stuff running small people out of business is terrible.
He knows that there's a lot of
Piddly stupid stuff.
unfair, discriminatory stuff going on with East African businesses. I know it. These department heads like, Julie Herbstead now know that we know it.
So, Attorney General Ellison, it very much seems to me that the abiding concern there is keeping these business people in business. But in point of fact, they were grant recipients. And so I guess my question is, I'm concerned about the seeming focus and priority on keeping grant recipients in business, as opposed to defending the state agencies and maintaining the integrity of taxpayer funds that are going to these recipients for the purpose of providing services to people.
I guess I don't agree that I did anything wrong other than to listen to people who ended up being liars.
Just 1 month after the December 2021 recorded meeting, the FBI swooped in and stopped the $250 million fraud. Through public statements and press releases in the months that followed, Ellison insinuated he was aware and helping the feds. In today's hearing, however, he admitted he didn't know the feds were 8 months into their investigation when he took the meeting with the people affiliated with Feeding Our Future.
I was not aware that there was a federal investigation, but my staff probably did know.
Seems like a pretty big mishap on your part there, dude. Seems like you should have known. Oh. So I guess that's so they are complicit in the crime. He posted that 13 hours ago. All right, so from Hunter Ash, read this thread about dogs and you'll understand the modern West. What? I don't want to read this. Ira and Anna Heed were addicted to the feel-good notion that they were protecting an underdog, saving a reviled thing, protecting this sweet, kind, and loving animal from a world that wished it harm. But they were suckers for a dog that abused them and eventually broke them. Okay, well, that was short. Okay. Okay. Yeah, careful. Yeah, I guess careful about where you allow your empathy, because you may be empathetic towards somebody who does not share the same empathy. See, federal agents arrest 1,000 plus in Minnesota operation targeting fraud and criminal aliens. DHS just wrapped the first week of massive operations in Minnesota, surging 2,000 federal agents to the Twin Cities area. Over 1,000 criminal illegal aliens, including murderers, rapists, pedophiles, and gang members, were arrested. Among them were individuals with final deportation orders dating back to 2001, 4, 6, 9, who had been living in Minnesota for years, despite convictions for serious crimes including child sexual assault, rape, armed assault, and human trafficking. This is a 30-day surge operation following revelations of multi-million-dollar fraud schemes operating in Minnesota, particularly involving daycare centers. The fraud investigation turned up a larger pattern, criminal illegal aliens using the state as a safe haven. Assistant Homeland Security Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said federal agents are working to root out this rampant fraud plaguing Minnesota. It's not just Minnesota. I've seen a lot in Ohio and Washington, and I'm sure more states are going to show up too. Seems like a business model for Nigerians. The operation includes agents from ICE Deportation Branch, Homeland Security Investigations, and Customs and Border Protection. DHS hasn't disclosed the full operational footprint for officer safety reasons, but confirmed the surge is ongoing. Good. No, it's resetting the stream. It reset the stream. Why do you do that, X? All right, well, I guess we'll just go top down now. Fury says Ellison should have been in prison years ago because of the way he was so abusive to his wife and then girlfriend. Agreed. Charles says, since the Bible doesn't mention much about the two witnesses, it allows for anyone to fill in the gaps. So we're an observation-based group here to where most of the stuff that I talk about is based on observations of what's happening. And I'm constantly comparing it to what the common narrative is or what the common teaching is. Because this is what Jesus commanded us to do. And he said that if you do not watch, he will come upon you like a thief in the night. So there's a lot of people who like to use the excuse, no man knows the day or hour, as a reason to not watch. But by not watching, you have no idea what's going on, right? You have no idea, if prophecy is even being fulfilled. The God, he actually gave us a sign to know when to really start paying attention. You might argue that, well, these things have been happening for centuries and years, and how do you know? This is the reason we know, is this sign that happened right here. This sign was so unique, it never happens. It was an anchor point that tells you this is when you start watching. So we actually have a ton of data based on why it is that we have made, really, their assumptions. They are, but they're based on data of things that have happened that match what's written in the scripture. So I think there's a video. I think I have a video pinned to the channel that you can watch, Charles, that goes through and kind of explains all of this. Eventually, I'm going to replace it. Did I replace it? I may have replaced it already. I tell you what, send me an email to Two Witnesses Live at Gmail, and I'll send you the link to a video you can watch if you want to be caught up to date on all the data. But you're absolutely right. Like, with so little information about the two witnesses, how do you know who the heck they are? Because of where we are in the timeline is the short answer. We've got a lot of data that indicates that we're in that window when the two witnesses should be prophesying for 1,260 days. And right now, the only people who are there's nobody on the planet tormenting people in the world more than Donald Trump and Elon Musk. That's the short, without me going into another rabbit hole. Anyway, let's keep going on Elon Musk. So this is his latest pinned. This is the plan. Import a new voting bloc from the third world. Bribe them with free government benefits for their votes. Then Elon responds, this is exactly what they have been doing, and it is sure to result in a one-party state like California, but far worse. What holds back California, which is already a one-party supermajority state, from being far worse is that people can move to other states without leaving America. What do you think will happen when there is no escape? Huh. Exactly. Let's see. So this is from Jeffrey Mead. Elon reposted this. So Mehdi Hassan talking about prosecuting Elon Musk isn't actually because Elon is breaking any laws. See, this is where even Elon is pointing out those who have Elon Musk derangement syndrome. It's because Elon is very powerful and effective. Think about this. He owns the most free speech platform on the internet. He himself has over 230 million followers. He's directly responsible for this thing in Minnesota going viral. Because he was one of the early one. I think he was the one who reposted Nick Shirley's report on the fraud, and that's when it went viral. He is on his way to being worth $1 trillion. He owns the likely fastest advancing AI in the world. He is essentially 100% on the side of the Republicans. And, well, I don't know if that's true. He's supporting the Republicans because it's the safest thing to do. He and Donald Trump did get into a little fight, and he was going to start his own party because he was not 100% beside the Republicans, but he realized that it would cause more damage to do that than to just support the Republicans. Let's see. And he is only in his mid-50s, meaning he has at least a 20-year runway. That is why the Democrats would want to prosecute him. He is too big of a threat to their political power. Let's see what this guy has to say.
I think the next Democratic president has to be ruthless. Not just president, next presidential candidate. The 2028 Democratic primaries have to showcase a group of politicians who are running for office to not just fix things, not just offer a bright new future, not just running on a change platform, but are running on a platform to prosecute and punish the people who broke the law, destroyed our country, destroyed our democratic fabric, destroyed society. I mean, turned people against one. What we saw over Christmas with the Somali fraud nonsense, the video from this right-wing YouTuber that went viral, all these people jumping on, attacking the Somali community. That is all engineered by people like Elon Musk. The algorithm does that. And I think, I said this recently to John Favreau on Twitter. I said, maybe I'm only half joking when I say this, which is the next Democratic president should run on a plan to prosecute Elon Musk. That would win. I mean, they would easily go to the top of the pack. They would immediately go to the top of the polls in the Democratic race. So the first Democrat who comes out and says, my first act as president is to prosecute Elon Musk.
For starters, he's lying about Elon Musk and X. Nick Shirley's content went viral on every platform. Just to give you context, I posted a video on Instagram and it got over 13 million views. Look at the bottom left, 13.3 million views. And that was on them going to that daycare center in Minnesota. And my news account on Instagram only has 211,000 followers. The video got 13 million views. So no, it wasn't Elon boosting it all over X. It was people seeing something that looks like fraud and smells like fraud and is likely being exposed as fraud and reacting to it. And the people being exposed were very likely Muslims and very likely Democrats in a Democrat-ran state. Now look at the man talking. Mehdi's talking, right? Muslim, a Democrat. It simply looks like he's just trying to defend his own. Now let's talk about prosecuting Elon Musk. For what? He hasn't broken any laws. He's just very, very effective in the fight against Democrats. And they don't like that. For example, Donald Trump is 79 years old, okay? He's very effective, but he doesn't have near the runway that Elon Musk has.
That's a good
Elon
point.
is in his mid-50s, and he's the richest man on the planet. I mean, that we can count other than maybe like dictators or whatever. But by far the richest man in the US, and one of the most, if not the most powerful man in the US. I mean, arguably other than the president. So if Democrats get into power and they can prosecute him, they can maybe find a way to get him out of the game. That's what this is about, Democrats' power at the federal level. Elon's not out here breaking a bunch of laws. Elon is the most productive person in our country. Brings more value than anybody else, bar none. Yeah. And that carries over into politics. Very valuable politically. So he's talking about prosecuting Elon because he sees that likely as the only way to really win against him. That's my opinion. And it's gross. I mean, think about it. The man is about to be worth $1 trillion. Controls the most free speech platform on the internet. Also controls the fastest developing AI, arguably in the world. And has a 20-year runway. Yeah, that's terrifying to Democrats. That's all I got for now. Just a reminder, the link to my newsletter is in my profile. Hope to see you there.
Yeah. Yeah. So Charles, let me respond to this comment. See, you say, I get all that. You are obsessed. Number one, I'm not obsessed with Trump and Elon. I'll be the first one to change the source of the content of this channel if two men show up breathing fire or two better candidates show up. The only reason why it seems as though I'm obsessed is because they continue to post and provide content for this channel. So I'm not obsessed. I just truly believe that they are the two anointed ones that stand before the Lord of the whole earth. And I don't see any reason to change, what it is that we're doing on this channel. It's, if anything, I would argue that you sound a little maybe tormented by them, by the fact that I would dare to even consider them for the two witnesses, which I get. It's not easy. As far as I know, I'm the only guy on the entire internet. I could be wrong about this. Please, if anybody knows better, let me know. So I'm always looking for fellow crazy people to talk about. To talk about this is, as far as I know, I'm the only one who's making this connection that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the two witnesses. That's not an easy thing to do. I'm not obsessed with it. It's just that it's literally based on the data. And I'll be the first to change if the data changes. So the timeline, based on the factual things that we've been able to observe, indicates that we are in the window of when the two witnesses should be prophesying for 1,260 days. And this channel was started for that reason, was to echo what the two witnesses say for 1,200. I think it's, to me, maybe it's just me tooting my own horn, I think it's the most ingenious plan for a channel because you have guaranteed content for 3.5 years. Right? I mean, like, they're supposed to talk for 3.5 years. And that is something that both Donald Trump and Elon Musk do consistently, is they're always either in the news or posting on their platforms. So in one way, shape, or form, They are talking every single day. So it may seem as though, I don't know if you're being honest, if it seems as though I'm obsessed with him. It's not like I named the channel Elon Musk and Donald Trump. It's Two Witnesses Live. And I'll be the first one to change and admit I'm wrong. I mean, if you've been with the channel from the beginning, you know the doubts that I have about Elon Musk, or at least initially 200 days ago or so. I had very serious doubts about Elon Musk. Less so now. I'm more convinced now than ever before. But in the beginning, I mean, honestly, it started as a joke. I used to just say Donald Trump and Elon Musk were the two witnesses just to start conversations with people. But as time went on and, things progressed the way that they've progressed, it just seems more and more of the likelihood that these two men are responsible for our freedom of speech right now. And the fact that they talk every single day gives us content to cover. It's not an easy thing being the only one on the internet that are saying these things. So I don't know if maybe I am obsessed. But honestly, if Elon Musk, if Elon took a week off, that would I would stop paying attention to him. Honestly, if Elon Musk or Donald Trump took a week off to where they didn't post and they disappeared from saying anything publicly, I would be the first to admit they no longer qualify to be the two witnesses. So if that happens, there you go. But that hasn't happened when we're honestly more than 351 days. I do struggle with figuring out when to start counting the 1,260 days. So I'll give you that. That's why on the calendar, which if you've been with us from the beginning, I've got a handful of dates of when to start counting. The one that's in the title is the one that ends the furthest out, July 3rd, 2028, I think, or 2027. One of those dates. Yeah. Spending 2 to 3 hours a night focusing on Trump and Elon and add a little bit of scripture into it, you might be the only one. That doesn't mean you are correct. I agree. I mean, the whole point is to echo their prophecy. That's literally the point of this channel. I'm not saying that it's the most entertaining thing to watch, and honestly, it's not the easiest thing to do either. But it does provide content. I want to know what it is that they're focusing on every single day and how it can align with scripture. So that's why, we spend most of the time covering what it is that they say. And then as I think about the, scripture, I bring it up. That's the whole point of this channel. I'm not guaranteeing that it's entertaining. It's just the purpose of this channel is to document and echo what it is that they say every single day. I'm trying to find a way to make it more entertaining. It might be more entertaining to go back to the two-person model where we just maybe pick the top things that they post and talk about it. Maybe that's more interesting. I'm constantly, if you've been here since the beginning, I've changed things often, constantly trying to figure out, should we make it shorter? Should we keep it under an hour? Is 2 hours good? 3 hours good? These guys post, for being the richest men in the world, they work 10 times harder than I do, and I work 16 hours a day every single day, except for Saturday. Saturday is the only day I take off. So, yeah. I love that you guys agree with me. I'm not alone in this. It's so hard to do stuff when you're the alone because you seem crazy. It's just like, look, I'm a very data-driven person. I'm an engineer. It's like if you get things wrong as an engineer, things blow up. And quite literally in some of the work that I do, if I get things wrong, things literally are dangerous. So accuracy is very important to me. And that's why I think you find a lot of people who are watching prophecy tend to be engineers. Dr. Christian Widner, he's also an engineer. So you'll find that that's a common profession with people who watch prophecy, because we love puzzles. We love to figure things out. And by and large, we tend to care about the details. Yeah, Charles, I get what you're saying. So Charles says nothing wrong with thinking it's them or the other popular views. My concern is it's a possible snare of Satan to deceive us. If you're constantly afraid of Satan deceiving you, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. One of the greatest things that anybody can learn is to embrace failure and fear. Like, if fear stops you, fear has won. If fear doesn't stop you, you've won. God hasn't given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So push through fear. Be okay with making mistakes. It's probably one of the most freeing things that you can do in your life is when you're no longer concerned about making mistakes. Yeah, that's in business. I've seen people trying to do things in a perfect way completely destroy their business, versus the person who just wants to solve a problem and they make 1,000 mistakes, but they eventually solve the problem. Those are the winners. The ones who are not afraid to make mistakes, not afraid of being wrong, not afraid of being deceived. They just move forward. Honestly, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are both wonderful witnesses to that. That regardless of the attacks, regardless of how people say they're wrong, they continue to have forward momentum. So even if they are wrong, the fact that they have forward momentum means they get more done than the person who is afraid of being deceived. That is definitely something that they are good witnesses to. What else? We should get back to this. I appreciate the criticism. By all means, feel free to call me out if you think I'm obsessed, or if I don't see it as me being obsessed, because I'm willing. I will be the very first person to say, "Damn it, Elon Musk stopped posting for a week. He's no longer a candidate. We need to figure out who is." I don't think that qualifies as being obsessed. If anything, I'm obsessed with the Bible. You could say that's true. I am thoroughly obsessed with my Creator and understanding life and how to live life right, and finding answers to things. I love finding answers to questions that people never asked. Like a couple days ago, the whole idea that there was very likely female Nephilim. Like, the chances that there were not female Nephilim is lower than the chances that there were. It's like there's a very high likelihood that there were female Nephilim. So, like, whoever thought to ask that question? Those are my favorite things to do. Yeah, I have a lot of teachings on the internet, and I actually try to avoid teaching. You just caught me on a very talkative night. I try to avoid teaching on this channel because really the stated purpose of this channel is to echo the two witnesses and what it is that they're saying. And to point it out how it associates with prophecy, because we still have a lot of things we don't know about the future that I'm trying to answer, trying to figure out. So, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. I think I've made my point. Let's see. In their eyes, where are we at? So we watched that already. So this is Grok. This is the shooting. I don't want to show the shooting on YouTube because I don't know how YouTube is going to react. They have very strong policies on violence, and I think if I show violence, they'll immediately stop showing this video to people. So we're just going to pause this one here. So this one is from Gentry Gevers. Here's another angle of the woman trying to run over the ICE agents in Minnesota. She was directly trying to run over the agent and was shot in self-defense. Horrible situation. But when you turn your car into a weapon, what do you expect? I agree. This is a very tough situation. Your vehicle can be used as a weapon. We don't want to show that. Keep moving on. All right, so this is in response to Mike Solana. C. Weaver believes private homes should be seized and white people specifically should be targeted. She spoke about this publicly for years and has taken back nothing. The mayor is standing by her. Amnesty is not a thing we get to politicians for things they still want. Who's C? Is that the new governor or mayor up in Seattle? I know C slightly and have always found her impressive and serious. I see that one of her regrettable tweets was 2018 QT of one of mine. Probably also regrettable, but long deleted as millennials achieve political power. We're going to need general amnesty on bad old tweets. Zoran Mamdani stands by C. Weaver. We made the decision to have C. Weaver serve as our executive director at the mayor's office to protect tenants. So Colin Wright says, I have no patience for racists in office who want to seize the house I saved for and bought solely due to the color of my skin. Anti-white racism is so normalized on the left that for most, it doesn't even register as a problem and is regularly wielded as a virtue signal. Yeah? Oh, it's the new exec directory in New York City? Oh. Ooh, okay. Grok. Let's see, well, this is the letter of the law. California does not require proof of citizenship to vote. Elon says correct. Again, from Mike Solana. Let's see exactly. This wasn't a janitor sexist joke overheard in an elevator. These are the woman's stated beliefs, her whole identity for years and years and years, while she fought with people over these ideas online and in public. Let's see. This is really in response to Grok analyzing images. We don't need to watch that one. This is Grok. What is this? Report: a judge has ordered the leader of a $250 million Somali welfare fraud scandal, Amy Brock, to forfeit her Porsche and other luxury goods. Let's see. The Post reports a federal judge's December 30th, 2025 order for Amy Brock, founder of Minnesota's Feed Our Future nonprofit, to forfeit a 2013 Porsche, $3.7 million in bank accounts, and luxury items as part of restitution in the $250 million COVID-19 child nutrition fraud scheme. Cool. Okay, this one is cute. You just have to admit, like these little kitties waving at you is absolutely adorable. She is white, so she doesn't see herself as racist. That's what I don't get, is a lot of these people who are talking about white supremacist and racism among white people, a lot of them are white. Do they not know they're white? From Mike Solana, C. Weaver believes private... This seems like a repost. Did he post that twice? He must have posted this twice. From Mike Solana, let's see. So in response to from Mamdani Watch, Zoran Mamdani, director of mayor's office to protect tenants, C. Weaver, who said home ownership is white supremacy, broke down crying when she was asked about all of her controversial... Oh, is this C. Weaver? I don't understand this reaction. She believes private homes should be seized and white people specifically should be targeted. This was not a private group chat. This was all public. She is now in a position of considerable power. How did she think people would react? That's an image, but apparently she broke down crying. Okay. God sad. I like his stuff. So he posted from Taya. Sacramento State President, we need to eliminate whiteness.
I would not say they're influenced by white people. They're influenced by whiteness.
What does that mean?
Whiteness is an ideology.
Oh,
it's
I love
a
this guy.
culture. It's a value system. And what we need to do is we need to eliminate that value system.
You want to eliminate whiteness?
Whiteness, not white people, whiteness.
But how do you eliminate whiteness without eliminating white people?
What I want to do is to create an environment that is more collective, that is more value driven, and I think that flies an absolute oppositeness with whiteness.
Are you saying that white people are evil?
No.
They're
Not at
not
all.
evil?
Not at all.
But then if they're not evil, why would they treat another human being to a point that a man like you would want to eliminate whiteness?
Fair point.
We are all fallen people. I would not say they're influenced by white people. They're influenced by whiteness.
What does that mean?
Whiteness is an ideology. It's a culture. It's a value system. And what we need to do is we need to eliminate.
Based on what? Isn't America the melting pot? I mean, even in my childhood, I had friends across all the colors, all the spectrum of colors. So what is whiteness? What is this whole idea of whiteness? I don't get it.
That value system.
It's not a value system.
Eliminate whiteness?
Whiteness, not white people, whiteness.
But how do you...
Dude, he's whiter than he is.
You eliminate whiteness without eliminating white people?
What I want to do is to create an environment that is more collective.
I like him too. I can't remember his name. I don't agree with everything that he says, but I do adore him. And that goes for everybody that follows Jesus. I just adore him. You know, that was something that I learned early on. Like I was raised when I was raised in the cult to look down at people in other churches and religions. And when I realized that God's people is in all the churches and religions, man, talk about being freed from a prison. When you're free to actually love your neighbor, that's an amazing feeling, to where you don't have to agree with everybody. You can disagree about things and still love one another and adore each other.
That is more value driven, and I think that flies an absolute oppositeness with whiteness.
Are you saying that white people...
That's a good point, Dina. White is all the colors of light. That is 100% right. Interesting. I feel like there's like a really good meme there. I'm going to have to think about that one.
People are evil?
No.
They're not evil?
Not at all.
But then if they're not evil, why would they treat another human being to a point that a man like you would want to eliminate whiteness?
We are all fallen people. I would
dodge.
not say they're influenced by white people.
Dodge the question. All right, skipping on the grokky stuff. American Tribune, the Democratic platform is the South Africanization of America. Okay, so this is in response to Fisher King. So far, I can tell the modern left platform is chaotic streets, coddling criminals, abortion, drug legalization, and wealth confiscation. I don't think this is an exaggeration. And the American Tribune responded, the Democratic platform is the South Africanization of America. Few net taxpayers supporting a huge horde of welfare leeches. Huge amounts of crime that terrorizes what remains of the productive citizenry into compliance. DEI mandates that make doing profitable and effective business generally impossible, at least without bribing the race, hustling kleptocracy. That response is just too smart for my brain. I don't get it. I mean, I get the Democratic platform is the South Africanization of America. I know that they persecute white people. Few taxpayers supporting, huge amounts of crime that terrorize what remains of the productive citizenry into... Okay, I get it. So if you just take this slower. So I guess this is... I just don't know enough about South Africanization. I think that's what kind of throws me for a loop here. But if you take this line by line, I can get what they're saying. So a few net tax, in other words, the rich giving their money to the poor. So few net taxpayers supporting a huge horde of welfare leeches. Yep. Huge amounts of crime that terrorizes what remains of the productive citizenry into compliance. Yep. Yeah, it's a suicidal empathy. It's the cancer eating the healthy host. Like huge amounts of crime that terrorize what remains of the productive citizenry. Diversity, equity, and inclusion mandates that makes doing profitable and effective business generally impossible, at least without bribing the race. Hustling kleptocracy. Okay, I get it. All right, I get it. All right, what's this?
Oversight Committee is holding its first hearing on the massive fraud in Minnesota's social services program. Minnesota's social services, which are funded by you, the American taxpayer, are being ripped off. The most vulnerable are suffering as a result. Federal prosecutors estimate that these criminals have stolen at least $9 billion.
Wow.
The fraudsters, many of whom are from Minnesota's Somali community, have stolen from programs meant to feed needy kids, provide services to autistic children, house low-income and disabled Americans, and provide health care to vulnerable Medicaid recipients. Fraudsters like these take millions to enrich themselves while providing nothing, overstating or outright faking the services. How many children have gone hungry because fraudsters stole money that was intended to provide them with food? How many autistic children were denied services because fraudsters instead sent this money overseas? How many low-income seniors, people with disabilities, or those with mental illnesses were denied access to housing because fraudsters drained resources and pocketed the money for themselves? The breadth and depth of this fraud is breathtaking. And I fear that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they're eventually going to trace this back to, I mean, because you got to figure who approves even $1 million for a daycare in a year? And some of these daycares were getting $2, $3, $4 million a year. Who approved that? I mean, that doesn't even make sense. I think, Nick Shirley had broke this down on one of his videos to where one daycare was earmarked for $1 million, and they were supposed to have like 70 children, and they only had like 10. So even if they were at full capacity, they were still supposed to be getting like $90,000 per child. Like, who approves that? Like, why? I mean, I don't even know how that checks out financially. Like, they're literally funding the entire business. The business doesn't have to charge any money, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, who in what committee we're talking about? We really, daycare is a real problem in America right now. Why don't we enrich a couple of daycare providers by giving them 10 times more money than they need to actually take care of the children? You know what I mean? Like, for the money they're receiving, they should not be in these. Number one, their signs should be grammatically correct, not the leering center. And with that kind of money, the resources should be amazing. Obviously, it screams fraud. So fraud for the people they put their names on the daycare, fraud for the person who's sending the check, and fraud for the person who approved the budget. And where's this money really going? So if they can answer those questions, I imagine this is going to get very interesting. What is this? It's 5 minutes. I don't know if we'll listen to this whole thing. So Majority Whip Tom Emmer, do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about that fraud as it was occurring?
Thank you, Chairman Comer, for holding this important hearing. As I said on Monday, good riddance to Governor Walz, but he cannot escape accountability for the estimated $9 billion in fraud. How did this happen? And where the hell has the Twin Cities media been? The Star Tribune is complicit. They have had this story for years, if you just heard, and they've refused to report anything on it. In fact, they continue to try and cover up. Our Minnesota Republican colleagues have demanded answers and accountability for years, but have seen nothing from Walz, his administration, our Democrat colleagues like Tina Smith, Amy Klobuchar, Ilhan Omar, and Angie Craig, or the worthless Star Tribune. Thank God for President Donald J. Trump for finally bringing attention to this issue. Representative Rarick, I'm going to begin with you. You've been working on this issue for years. You've spoken to the whistleblowers personally. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You have an understanding that 1,000 whistleblowers running an account on X have come forward to expose fraud in Minnesota state agencies, and they have been entirely ignored by Tim Walz and have even been retaliated against. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Even this morning, I got another message.
Well, in your experience, are their claims credible or are they politically motivated against Walz?
They're completely credible, not politically motivated.
In fact, many of these are Walz administration employees, correct?
They are actually Democrats as well.
Can you quickly give us one example of the retaliation these folks have been facing?
Yes, I can. In my opening statement, I mentioned that the most severe ones was that they would be fired with cause, so they couldn't have unemployment insurance, that they would be blacklisted from all state agencies, and I bet that it's also Hennepin County and Ramsey County. As you know, those are Democrat
Ooh, they need to turn off that mic feedback. It's painful.
run, and much, much more.
Based on what you've learned, Representative, over the last several years, do you have any doubt that Governor Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
He absolutely knew that it was occurring.
Thank you. The Housing Stability Services Program was estimated to cost about $2.6 million per year, but before it was shut down last October, it was on track to run about $122 million in 2025. In fact, I think they sucked $161 million out of it from the point it started in 2020 until it was finally shut down. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, and Joe Thompson believes that 90% of that was fraud.
Yeah. Wow. The Quality Leering Center, as uncovered by Nick Shirley, received almost $10 million in funding. Is that accurate?
I believe it is.
There are more than 80 autism centers in Minnesota under investigation. Is that true?
I believe it is, yes.
It's clear that someone is criminally complicit. You can't just let this amount of money get out of your administration over a period of 7 years without knowing. There was a hearing in the state regarding the fraudulent housing stabilization.
Yeah, it's clear that they were not counting on somebody to get in and actually enforce the law. Donald Trump.
Program, but before that hearing, Governor Walz fired the official who was slated to testify so that they could not testify and expose what was happening under Governor Walz's watch. Has Governor Walz or Attorney General Ellison fired anyone else to your knowledge, Representative?
Not to my knowledge, and that was Eric Rumdahl, and his administration believes that he was not fired, but I say he was fired because it was too convenient.
Right. Representative Hudson, is it true that 90% of the individuals charged, regardless of what your colleague on the panel just said with his facts and figures, 90% of the individuals charged or indicted with the $250 million Feeding Our Future COVID fraud are of Somali descent?
I believe that to be correct.
Are you aware that in a 2021 video, Mr. Ellison promised that he would obstruct his own agencies in their investigation of Somali fraud?
I am very much aware of that.
It's no wonder that criminals in the Somali community felt they were free to steal taxpayer dollars. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Marion. Do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
Walz and Ellison were protecting fraudsters instead of investigating them, and it was purposeful. And it's no coincidence that this is occurring largely in the Somali community. Walz made a sanctuary state, Minnesota, a sanctuary state. He gave free health care, free college, and free licenses to illegals. And Walz looked the other way when Somali immigrants were stealing. Representative Robbins, do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
So all three of you have no doubt in your minds that Tim Walz knew about the $9 billion of fraud during his tenure as governor and did nothing about it. It looks like my time is about to expire, and I do want to say
I wasn't intending to watch this whole thing, but it's very educational.
to all of you, on behalf of Minnesota, thank you for being here, and justice will be served.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Motivating. Elon says prosecute Governor Tim Walz. I agree. I think they agree. Man, it will be nice to see some justice.
Thank
you. It really makes you wonder what, how life could be different if these things weren't happening. I mean, it could be contributing factors to the inflation. That's definitely one thing. Yeah. But it's not, I don't think it's limited to the Biden administration. Some of this stuff goes back 10 years or more. Man, you remember when gas used to be 99 cents? And you could get like a Whopper at Burger King for 99 cents. You remember those days? I don't know. Maybe that's me. I might be dating myself. But I have to wonder if like the reason for the, drastic change in prices, like the same burger that was 99 cents when I was in my 20s, is now like $8, not $8 or $9. I guess it makes sense when these groups are getting billions of dollars. I mean, it's the government. The government is just printing this money, continuing to put us in debt. Interesting. Another prosecute Tim Walz. The usual suspects have been claiming on X that the Minnesota fraud scandal is no big deal and that it was racists to place Somalis at the center of it. They lie. Let's see. The fraud scandal in Minnesota are a very big deal, involving so far the theft of over $1 billion in taxpayer funds across multiple schemes. Prosecutors already charged 100 people, dozens convicted, $9 billion in claims. The majority of those charged, around 85 out of 98 defendants in the court cases, are Somali American. Why? Because the fraud often involved networks of Somali-owned nonprofits. Governor Tim Walz labeled the scandal being inflamed by white supremacy. There's that word. There's that phrase again. Systemic fraud was enabled by his state's lax controls. Walz now so discredited he won't run for governor again. His political career is over. How this bozo ever passed Kamala Harris's vetting? How this bozo ever passed Kamala Harris's vetting procedures to be her running mate is a mystery. That was pretty funny. All right, moving on. 16 hours ago, exciting news for creators. Now X Premium subscribers can publish full-length articles right on the platform. I need to start writing articles. I think I'm going to start doing that. I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I keep saying all the things I want to do. I have a hard time finding the time to do it. When you work 16 hours a day, the rest of the time is sleep. And when you take Saturday off, like most people will work through the weekend, I take Saturday off to be with my my wife and kids and God, because it's the Sabbath. Sunday, I think I can do something on Sunday. I tend to get a couple of hours uninterrupted on Sunday. Right now, I'm just editing different videos that I've been working on, trying to find like the best way to do like a movie production quality videos. Like I want to, like I'm working on one for the Antichrist. I'm working on one for the Two Witnesses. I don't know. I've got like 5 different videos in production. The one that's almost ready is the timeline one, which I already did the timeline. I've just been editing it to get it concise so that I can republish it. But I'd like to actually start writing articles, because there's a lot of people who really like reading more than watching video content. I'd like to reach those people. That'll be Sunday's work, I guess. You remember when burgers were $0.25 and Cokes were $0.10, and I could get a gallon of gas for $0.25? You got me beat, Fury. You win. Yeah, I don't quite remember when they were that cheap. All right, Eric Doherty, 13 hours ago, breaking. Rep Comer confirms a whopping 75% of Somalis are on full welfare benefits. No surprise there. What does this say?
Open for 4 years under Joe Biden. They were trying to rush as many future Democrat voters into America as possible. And with this particular community, the Somali community, it appears over 75%, Maria, of the Somali population in America is on full welfare benefits. You know, the argument to letting people into the United States has always been, we need workers, we need workers. For whatever reason, this particular community, which is a major flank in the Democrat Party, a major part of their Democrat base, they are milking the system. And what we're going to see in Minnesota today, I think, is going to outrage every hardworking, tax-paying American. We're open for.
How do you stay on full welfare benefits? Aren't they supposed to limit you? Like, you're supposed to prove that you're looking for work or something like that? Yeah, probably. All right, so egregious fraud. So from Gunther Eagleman, breaking. Jim Jordan just exposed the massive feeding our future fraud in today's House Oversight meeting. Here, let's. Didn't we already listen to this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hudson, who is Salim Saeed and Amy Bach?
I recognize those names as defendants in the Feeding Our Future trial.
They ran Feeding Our Future, is that right?
That's correct.
And they've been indicted?
That's correct.
They've been convicted?
That's correct.
And they're in jail waiting sentences, is that right?
As I understand it.
Okay, I want to go back, because earlier with Mr. Gill, you said that they overlooked the fraud. I think it's worse than that. I think they helped it along. I'm going to go to this meeting that took place, or actually I want to go to March 30th, 2021. Is it true back in March of 2021, the Minnesota Department of Education suspended payments to Feeding Our Future, that program? Is that right?
I believe that's correct.
And then a month later, they resumed payments.
That's correct.
What caused them to change their mind?
In my opinion, what caused them to change their mind was pushback from their constituency within the Somali community, who accused the state agencies of being racist.
But what caused them to stop it in the first place? Was it whistleblowers coming forward? Was it like this something's not right here? What happened?
Apologize for the misunderstanding. The reason they stopped the funds in the first place is because they had credible allegations that there was fraud taking place.
From whistleblowers and others.
Correct.
And just they're doing their job looking, this doesn't make sense. We got all these programs, no one's getting fed, and yet money's going out the door like crazy. So they suspended it, and then they started it back up, right? Was there any threat of a lawsuit from the Somali community and folks affiliated with Feeding Our Future?
Mr. Jordan, there was more than a threat. They actually did it.
They did? And what was the alleged claim in that lawsuit?
That they were victims of racial discrimination.
Oh, they played the race card, huh? All this fraud going on, money going out, and they played the race card. Now, when I talked about not just overlooking it, there was a meeting that took place between the Attorney General and affiliates of Feeding Our Future. Is that right?
That is correct.
And what happened at that meeting? Do we know?
Yeah, we do, because we have it on tape. There was an audio recording made at that meeting that was entered into evidence in the Feeding Our Future trial, and it was later revealed through work from Center of the American Experiment, the full recording. And my observations of what took place in that meeting was that Attorney General Keith Ellison was focused on one thing and one thing only, and that was keeping these folks in business. There were no questions that he asked of these folks about how the kids are doing, the operation, how they're getting fed, who's being helped. Instead, the focus was entirely on ensuring that the money continues to flow. And I'll add that he went so far as to say that he was going to fight these people in reference to the state agencies. The state agencies are his client.
Yeah. And when you said money's going to flow, did money flow to Mr. Ellison's campaign a couple weeks later from some of the folks who were in that meeting?
Sure did.
How much? Do we know how much that was?
I do not have that number.
So it wasn't just overlooking the fraud. They were actively trying to make sure this program continued, and then they benefited from that politically with contribution to their campaign, all in this same year, all in 2021, when this was all coming to a head. Is that accurate?
That is my understanding.
And this fraud is much bigger than this, because as I look, it's like 6 different federal agencies. Department of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, Small Business Association, Housing, Urban Development, Department of Labor, Department of Agriculture, in this program and a bunch of others, they were shaking down the entire federal government, it looked like. 6 different federal agencies. I think
kind of makes you wonder how many people saw the problem and didn't speak up.
You pointed out over the last 15 years.
That's correct.
And not only are the administration, the Democrat administration, overlooking it, they're helping it along. They're assisting it. They're going after whistleblowers, as your colleague pointed out, and they're benefiting from all this politically with contribution to their campaign, not to mention the voting issue that you referenced earlier as well. Is that all accurate?
I believe so.
Oh, now there's more than 6 agencies involved. There's 6 federal agencies that got shaken down, but there's 2 other agencies involved now, the FBI and the DOJ. Right? How many people have been indicted now?
I do not have that number in front of me, but it's significant.
And I don't know how long y'all been in the legislature. We appreciate your work, appreciate what you do. But have you ever seen anything like this in your time in the legislature? I've never seen anything like this in an agency. Miss Robbins, you're...
Wow. Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison was part of the cover-up. He needs to be exposed as well. From Sarah Smith. Jim Jordan is a champion. Merrick Garland's Department of Justice labeled parents speaking out at school board hearings as domestic terrorists. I remember that. Targeted Catholics and pro-lifers. I remember that. Retaliated against brave whistleblowers. Weaponized lawfare against his political adversaries. Pam Bondi confirmation can't come soon enough. When was this? January 16th, 2025. Hey, Lion Dog. I can't believe it's not brother. She's next. Elon. Thanks for posting. Was an honor to participate. These people cannot be arrested fast enough. Oops. Anytime you start getting into the memes, I probably accidentally clicked into the post. Let's see. 10 hours ago, he doesn't seem to understand that crime is crime.
Mohammed, I'm speaking today on behalf of the Somali community.
Oops, dang it, I did it again.
I'm speaking today on behalf of the Somali community in Lewiston. Some of you sitting here today, we voted for you. We elected you to protect our community interests, not creating division or go after one elected member from our community. If this narrative continues, our community will be forced to re-examine our relationship or political relationship, including our relationship with the Democratic Party and who will be voting in the future. This is not a threat. My name is Mohammed. I'm speaking to...
I love Elon's response. He doesn't seem to understand that crime is crime. That's good. If you keep talking about fraud in place, the entire voting community will abandon Democrats. Great. Are you the voting community? Vegas Loop. Yeah, we can read this. Elon's underground network is expanding faster than anyone expected. The Boring Company's Vegas Loop is no longer just a novelty. It's quietly becoming the fastest growing transit system in the U.S. Interesting. Grok Imagine. I think we're at the end. I think this is about where we left off. Some people really do. So guys just want to eradicate white people. It's that simple. Guys, they just want to eradicate white people. It's that simple. Some people really do. It does seem to be the case. Yep, I think we're on this January 6th. Yep. All right, I think that covers. Oh, here's one new one. They know that mail-in voting makes fraud trivial. France banned mail-in voting in 1975. Mexico banned mail-in voting in 92. Belgium banned it in 2008. Basically, in my opinion, the left has positioned themselves as the incompetent party, the party of smug moral superiority where dissent and discussion isn't tolerated, the party of optics over outcomes. That party needs to level up their competence or complaining about Trump lands flat. Okay, No ID.
California made it actually illegal to ask for ID when people vote.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we're getting into, this is no ID mail-in ballots make fraud trivial. Seems like we've covered this several times.
California and New York, you are not allowed to show your ID when you vote. I just want to be clear so everyone understands this. In California and New York, you are not allowed to show your ID even if you want to.
Right. Why would that ever be a good idea?
I mean,
if you're
trying to facilitate fraud in elections, it's a great idea.
That's the only reason.
Yes.
There's no other reason logically why that would be a good idea.
It's for fraud. It's like wake up, sheeple. Wake up. Hello. Like, let's say you wanted to commit fraud. What are the things you would do?
Yeah,
you would say you don't need ID, and you can mail in your ballot.
California.
100%. We're about 0.01% of unraveling California's fraud. Yep. Elon's truth. We're seeing 700% increase in. So this, what's this?
Basically, increases. This is from the government website, by the way, which is run by Democrats. So, like you're seeing, like in some cases, like 700% increases in the past 3.5 years in illegals in swing states. What a coincidence! And when you're talking about elections that are won or lost by 10 or 20,000 votes, and then you bring in 200,000 people, and then you put them on the fast track to citizenship. This is without considering any cheating. This is legalized. That if that happens over the next 4 years, there will be no swing states. They're importing voters. That is I think that's obvious to anyone who looks, and we will have a situation like we have in California, where it's a one-party state. California is a super-majority Dem state, and so it's one-party rule. And if you have one-party rule, that's not a democracy.
I've seen that one a couple of times, I think. This is from yesterday. Election worker. Okay. Yeah, I think even though some of these say like 20 hours ago. Let's see. Today's achievement. Okay, yeah, this is Grok. Yep. I'm just going to say we're probably done with this timeline. I'm seeing a lot of old stuff. All right. I know we were at close to the 3-hour mark. I had some other stuff I wanted to show you. Let's look at 3i Atlas. She's been doing On the Pulse with Silky here. She's the most consistent that I've seen. Ray, he's still posting about 3i Atlas, but he started moving into other content. She tends to give an update of some sort every day, so I just kind of watch her intro, see what she has to say.
Hello, everybody. We have to talk about our friend 3i Atlas again. And today, it's that offset bright spot that still haunts researchers that we need to talk about, and it has been visible in quite early images. And when they first saw it, of course they thought, yeah, it's for sure a natural comate, and that's just image problem, quality problems. But then, as we now have so many other images, they quickly realized, oh, wait a minute, that is actually a real problem, and it's really there. And after my last video about 3i Atlas with the CIA, that is basically denying information about 3i Atlas, saying it's classified. I hope you have seen that video.
Yeah, that's suspicious. We didn't watch that one yesterday, but she did a video about the CIA classifying information about 3i Atlas, if that's not suspicious enough.
It'll blow your mind. That is really a crazy story. Why would the CIA take the time and effort to release a letter saying that 3i Atlas is classified when NASA tells us nothing to see here, case closed, it's just a natural comet? So for a piece of rock, you don't need to classify information, don't you? Unless there is something else. And that fuels us a little bit, I have to say. But we don't want to put on the tinfoil hat. We want to stay scientific and look at the facts. And of course, discuss what this is, like Harvard professor Avi Loeb does. And it's kind of stunning that nobody really addresses all these anomalies. Depending on how you count them, I think we at least have 17 that are still unexplained to this day. So just to say it's a natural comet without telling us, okay, why is the antitail like this? Why did we see this, this, and that? I've reported all about that, guys. I'll put the playlist of Atlas in the end screen, but I'll put also the CIA video in the end screen because that came unexpected. I saw it and I'm like, what? I can't believe it. But let's get back to the bright spot because that is also very, very interesting. And we see this early image of 3i Atlas, right? That scientists can't really explain. We know a coma that didn't behave like a normal comet. That is what classifies 3i Atlas. And even early on already, 3i Atlas showed signs that it was not shedding material in this normally chaotic way. This is how natural comets shed their material. Chaotic. Nothing is planned. Nothing is directed. So normal comets, they shed it in an isotropic way, how most icy bodies do when they're first heated by the sun, the closer they come to the sun, right? But what we see here, even in the early image, and let's look at this early image because that's, now that we know so far about 3i Atlas, it's interesting to see how that developed. So the brightness on this image here is sharply concentrated with a steep gradient on one side and then a sudden fall off on the other side. And this asymmetry is now a recurring theme. And what is also highly, highly interesting is that we have two jets that show perfect symmetry. These are the jets. We're talking about the coma here. The video about the jets that I just released is also kind of mind-boggling. And I called it. I called this video, "Can you explain this?" And I said, NASA, please explain this. They don't.
NASA?
And now the CIA says it's classified. Watch that video. It's in the end screen. I read the letter for you. I show you the letter. So the more recent images, right, that we're seeing of 3i Atlas, the latest one is from December 30th. Especially these processed observation, they reveal, in addition to the mystery of the coma, these structured jets and also rotating emission features that look kind of, I say strange. I don't want to say unnatural, but that's what it is. We can't sugarcoat it, right? So all this confirms to us that the object has preferred directions of activity. We want to word this carefully. Preferred directions of activity. We do not say, we do not, what's going on with my tongue, guys? I was up very, very late until like 5:30 a.m. to be able to release the CIA Atlas video for you guys because I thought it's so important. You need to see this. So I guess I need to get to running.
I think we're getting to the point. I think she's made her point here. Dina, Apophis is in 2029, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 4/13/2029. So 3i Atlas is kind of dominating because it's more recent. And it's just the questions. Oh, you guys couldn't see that. There you go. This is Apophis. So we're like here in the timeline. 2026, so 2025. Actually, I should probably move this over. We're like about here. Here's 2026, 2027, 2028. Maybe that's 2028, 2029. So a year. Yeah, we're like right here. We're in the middle here. NASA is the secret society. I'm sure it is. Remember an oncoming visitor called Apophis. Yeah, and this lines up more with seal number 7. So I tried to line this up more to actually match where these things happened. Let me see if I can get rid of my face. There you go. I tried to match this more with where they actually occurred. So seal 1, 2, right here. Seal 3, there. Seal 4. Seal 4 should actually... Seal 4 is in 2023, so that's actually here. So I should probably move this over. No, it's not in edit mode. Yeah, I'll move this over. And then, yeah, so Apophis is actually part of seal number 7, which I used to think these were 2 separate timelines, but it turns out they actually fit within one. This timeline actually fits in here. So you got the anchor point, you got all the seals opening up, and then like the last seal like opens up. I think I have August, it's either 2nd or I think it's August 2nd, 2027. Yeah, August 2nd, 2027. So that would put Apophis in seal number 7 right here. Like I said, it's like we have so much data. I need to find a way to present this data that doesn't put people to sleep. That's one of the big challenge with this timeline is there's probably a good 60 points of data that are irrefutable. Like they're literally facts. And I need to figure out a way to present it in a way that, you know, the average person who's used to 30-second commercials will find entertaining. That's one of the big challenges is presenting the hardest, you know, that saying, the hardest thing about communication is knowing if it happened. That's the problem that I'm trying to solve with the timeline. All right, so let's see. I think, did she make her point?
Temperature here. So we don't want to say directed activity because that sounds too scary, although we could say it because this is how it looks in the processed images. So what basically looked like a washed out blob months ago now aligns eerily precise.
So it's fun to think of, what is it? So this is a close-up picture of 3 Eye Atlas. This is the one that BP Earthwatch put together. He says this shows an armada of ships where each one of these are ships combined together in a cluster, and they've got some kind of a force shield on them. That's fun. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's intriguing to think about. I don't know if it's true, but it's interesting given the timeline on where we are, and the fact that Jesus shows up in the clouds. You know, I mean, this is a very real possibility. You know, he could show up in a spaceship with, you know, clouds that are a shield of some kind that is like a cloud around the ship. And that might be why when he was taken up initially 2,000 years ago, it says that he was caught up into the clouds. I mean, they may have seen this, and this could be the chariot of fire. I mean, look, this thing's surrounded by fire. I mean, it's fun. I mean, for lack of a better, you know, I mean, this is the least likely of him showing up in the clouds. This seems less realistic than this does. So this is kind of where I set my expectations. So I guarantee you, man, if 3 Eye Atlas starts turning around and coming back to Earth, that could very well be the sign of the Son of Man. Like if that thing does a 360 and starts heading back towards Earth, that would be your first indication of, oh, maybe this is a spacecraft of some kind. All right, let's move on. I got one more video I wanted to show you. So this happened recently. Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein posted this. I thought this was good, would be good to listen to.
The violent demonstrations on the Gaza border many times from the front lines. Unlike you, Mr. Chairman, and your commission who have never been there. These are outrageous efforts to break through the fence and slaughter Jewish civilians. Hamas also set out to induce the IDF to kill Gaza civilians, to instigate global condemnation of Israel. The IDF took every possible step to avoid Palestinian casualties, but using live ammunition as a last resort was the only way they could defend their own people. The Commission grotesquely perverts this reality.
A single voice in the United Nations, known as a house of lies and a house of darkness. Mr. Richard Kemp, God bless your soul for being outspoken and talking the truth.
Unlawful behavior and disregard of human rights.
The use of power by the Israeli army against the Palestinian demonstrators in Gaza.
I give the floor to United Nations Watch.
Mr. President, I was a British commander in Northern Ireland, Iraq and Afghanistan and have extensive experience dealing with rioting crowds whipped up by armed terrorists. I have observed the violent demonstrations on the Gaza border many times from the front lines. Unlike you, Mr. Chairman, and your commission who have never been there.
The reason why I want you guys to see this before we go is he's confronting the things that happened in Gaza with Israel, and it's scarily similar to the things that we're seeing happening in America. And I can't help but wonder if it's not the second part of Revelation 12, where that dragon who cast the flood out after the woman, after the earth swallows up that flood, it turns its attention to the children, to the offspring of the woman. That could be what we're seeing in America, and it could give us a clue of what to expect in future, into the days ahead, especially given we've got, timelines for potential seal dates opening. I don't know what's going to happen on February 17th, but I guarantee you I'm going to be searching the news like crazy and paying attention, probably staying home too.
These are outrageous efforts to break through.
Probably fully armed with full armor, my gun sitting in everybody, the couch, the kids, everybody. We're going to be sitting with our guns ready to go February 17th. Not to inflict fear or anything like that, but if anybody's got anything planned, it's not going to go well in our area.
Through the fence and slaughter Jewish civilians. Hamas also set out to induce the IDF to kill Gaza civilians, to instigate global condemnation of Israel. The IDF took every possible step to avoid Palestinian casualties, but using live ammunition as a last resort was the only way they could defend their own people. The Commission grotesquely perverts this reality. I accuse this Council of handing a deliberately biased mandate to the Commission intended to defame Israel. I accuse this Commission of misrepresenting Hamas's actions, twisting organized violence into peaceful protest. I accuse this Commission of acting as an instrument of Hamas terrorism by falsely accusing Israel of crimes against humanity, by validating terror tactics and by inciting killing and violence. I accuse this Commission of betraying the Palestinian people by failing to condemn their Hamas oppressors who, as we meet today, are firing on genuine peaceful protesters in Gaza. I accuse this Commission of wicked prejudice against the Jewish state and its army in a manner calculated to undermine its ability to defend itself. Greater violence is planned by Hamas in a few days. Violence this Council could restrain by condemning Hamas for its murderous actions and rejecting this outrageous report. I appeal to every member state to repudiate it. If you do not, you will have the blood of Palestinians and Israelis on your hands.
The United Nations was designed to be living up to its name, United Nations. But we have seen decades after decades how it is anything but a United Nations. What Mr. Richard Kemp has presented so succeedingly and so to the point, spot on, that the world needs to be able to condemn their perpetrators, the death cult, the terrorists, the terrorism that's terrorizing the world, and realize that Israel is on the right side of history. Israel has learned from history. It has learned from its own experiences what it has endured over 3,337 years of persecution, displacement. the pogroms, the genocide, the inquisitions, the crusaders, all the terrible atrocities that the Jewish people have been through over 3,337 years. We came out at the other side of it, not as victims, but as pioneers. 1948, when Israel was reestablished as a state, after 2,000 years being on the run, after losing a third of our people at the Holocaust, we came to Israel. We came back to our homeland. And we came there not as victims, but as pioneers. We did not allow the darkness, the terrorists, the horrific, terrifying losses that we endured. Everyone came heartbroken, decimated, broken to Israel, but with a sense of renewal, of rebirth. We moved on to the 21st century. We embraced the freedoms and the liberties that the 21st century has given us. We established a country that's a democracy.
We don't have to listen to this whole thing. I just love listening to Rabbi Goldstein. He is such a positive light. Even though he suffered terrible tragedy in his life, he is constantly a source of light. Such a good example. But yeah, so I wanted to handle what happens on February 17th. So based on if this information is correct, that these were the seals of Revelation opening up, seal number 1, 2, 3, 4. There's actually a pattern. So these are based on eclipses that happened on these days. So there was an eclipse that happened December 26, 2019, and that was the same. You know what? I keep meaning to bring this up. Let me go find the videos for you real quick. See if I can do it real quick. Rapture date and more supporting evidence. Is that it? No, that's not it. 2 weeks of years. No. Rapture timeline revealed. Nope. 7 seals? Nope. Oh, maybe. This one might be it. No. I'm trying to find the slideshow I did when we first started this channel. Because I've got a lot of like videos and stuff. Where is it? End time data. Fake revelation. Maybe it's on my other account. Oh, maybe it's under 2 Witnesses Live. Just bear with me for a minute. I've been meaning to find this for a while. Seals of Revelation. Probably this. Yeah. Yep, here it is. All right. All right, I'm going to go blow through these real quick because this is like a 3-hour teaching. But I want to show you. So this teaching is actually one of the very first videos we did. So if you scroll back in time on this channel, this slideshow, I did a whole presentation on it. But what I wanted to show you. So these are the eclipses that happen. So this is called an annular solar eclipse. This is different than a total solar eclipse in that this one looks like a crown. When the sun and moon come together, there's enough of an edge that shows through that it looks like a crown. One of these eclipses happened on each day that a seal was open. So this was the first one that showed up on December 26, 2019, and it was a crown above Sagittarius. This is where it was visible. It was over China. And the video's not available anymore. See, this is one of the problems. I should have downloaded these videos. I might have downloaded them somewhere. Darn it. Nope. Well, that's disappointing. I was hoping to show you guys the video. Oh, here's one. Here's a video of the eclipse that happened that day. There you go. That's seal number 1 opening. So this is what we can expect on February 17th. There's going to be an eclipse like this. Just like that. That is when the elders, the sun and when the elders cast their crown before the throne. They come together, and this is the crown. So when the sun and the moon come together, it makes a crown in the sky that looks like this. And this has happened on each one of these days. One of those annular solar eclipses happened. I've watched every single one of them. Some of them are mislabeled, or maybe they're labeled, but they're for when like there's a website that's real popular for eclipses. One of them is labeled as a total solar eclipse, but I watched every single one of them. Every single one of them looked like this, was a crown. Anyway, so there was an eclipse like that on this day, and this was the first day that the COVID pandemic started. This is they traced it back to December, and very close to this day, to this eclipse. And then December 14th, 2020, there was one of those eclipses when the Electoral College declared Joe Biden to be the winner of the presidential election. This was also the same day Operation Warp Speed was handed over to the Biden administration. This was seal number 3. This was seal number 4. So February 17th there's this pattern here to where there's a annular solar eclipse that's going to happen on this day, which mirrors this eclipse. So it mirrors seal number 3. This one mirrors seal number 6, and this one mirrors seal number 1. And let me give you a better idea of what I mean by mirror. If you go to Messiah 2027, he's got some charts on here. This right here. So he went through and was also tracking the eclipses. So these days in yellow are eclipses. So he tracked not only their path on this particular day, but also he highlighted them there. And he noticed that they start to reverse their order after January of 2024 to where this eclipse that went this way now goes this way. And you've seen a lot of people do videos like saying that it's drawing the Aleph and the Tav on the United States, and they've drawn different assumptions based on that. Even more than that, you can see that they reverse their order. So this is what he calls it a decalcomania, which is a specific type of painting where you put like ink on half of a paper and then fold it in half, and then that makes a mirror image. This is a mirror image to where you've got these eclipses that happened on these days, and then you've got eclipses that happened on the opposite here. And so if you look over here, let me see where you can see it. His lines are kind of in the way. So this one in February 2026 is very likely seal number 5. So seal number 1 would have been, he doesn't have seal number 1 on here. But this is very likely seal number 5. It's a strong candidate for seal number 5, opening. And this is a strong candidate for seal number 6. And this one is the strong candidate for seal number 7. Yeah. You could also argue seal number 7 could be down here. But it's based on symmetry and eclipses. So I did it in a different way here. So like you can see the color bar here, how it lines these up. So seal number 1 mirrors seal number 7. Seal number 2 mirrors seal number 6. Seal number 3 mirrors seal number 5. And the reason why the rider on the green horse, there's 2 of them, is because there's a 7-day split between them, death followed by hell, which is the Al-Aqsa flood followed by the Israel response to the Al-Aqsa flood. Anywho, so I don't know what exactly is going to happen on February 17th. We did kind of have an aha moment not too long ago when we were reading Matthew. Let me find it here. Matthew 24. So when you read Matthew 24, you can kind of line up the seals with what's going to happen. And seal number 5 lines up with the start of the Great Tribulation. So this is a possible candidate for what could happen starting February 17th, 2026. For then there will be great tribulation, such as not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor shall ever be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is Christ, or there, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I've told you beforehand. See, there's that phrase. So in John 14:29, he says, see, I have told you beforehand, so that when these things begin to happen, you will believe. See, I have told you beforehand. Therefore, if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out, or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. For wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. So there's a couple things we can take away from here. It's going to be a short period of time, which what's interesting about the distance between seal number 5 and 6 is if they are a mirror of seal number 2 and 3, that is the shortest period of time between 2 seals at 176 days. So basically 5 to 6 months. So this could be the Great Tribulation, and it could last 5 to 6 months. Now, one thing that logistically, I don't know if we've properly thought about what the Great Tribulation will be like, even though it says that it'll be greater than any other time that's ever been on the earth. You have to keep in mind that seal number 6 and seal number 7 do a lot of damage and kill a lot of life on the earth. So it's I think that's how it's possible to still be true that men will be given in marriage, is even though it'll be the worst time the earth has ever seen, life will still go on. I don't know. So I don't know what to expect, but as we've paid attention to Donald Trump and Elon Musk, that they're pointing out this fraud that's going on with the Somali groups, what we're seeing is a lot of Muslim Islamic activity that's coming to a head. And it would not surprise me if something doesn't start on that day. Something that could cause things to get really bad. That's why I said, for me and my family, we'll probably be covered in armor and loaded up with weapons, sitting on the couch that day. And I don't say that to like cause fear. Just be prepared. My hope is nothing happens on that day that, I honestly don't know what to say. I mean, how do you present the Great Tribulation in a positive way? I don't know how to do that, but at the same time, I also don't want to be a fear monger and make people afraid and, go sell your house and go hide away on an island somewhere. I think God has put us where we need to be so that, we do what we need to accomplish. I think that's the right way to think about it. Like, you are where you need to be. God knows who you are. He loves you, and he's placed you where you need to be. But you should be prepared for food and water. I would definitely say that's kind of a long-standing recommendation. You should always be prepared with food and water. In this case, for 6 months. Normally, I recommend that you have food and water for 3 months, enough time to get you through to a growing season, just in the event that something bad happens during the winter. If you have food and water, or a way to get clean drinking water for 3 months, you'll survive. In this case, we know that there's a potential of a 6-month period of time. So you'd be better to buy a couple extra bags of flour and sugar and salt. It doesn't take much to have the nutrition you need to survive this long. The body requires very little nutrition. I know they post when I'd make a terrible advertisement for these emergency food places, because they try to base your daily average on like 2,000 calories. You can live on way less than 2,000 calories. I mean, because you can depending on how much weight on your body, you could literally fast for 1 month. So you could go the first month without eating anything, just drinking water and making sure that you have calcium and potassium and magnesium. If you have a source of calcium, magnesium, and potassium, like in pill form, you could go 30 days without eating. Just make it as an opportunity to lose some weight. Get your 30-day fast in. For those of you who your body would never survive that, just make sure you've got a small amount of food to give you nutrition every single day. So for very cheap, you can buy like flour, sugar, salt, and yeasts, and have the ingredients to make bread every single day for 6 months for like $150. You could buy a bag of peas and a bag of beans, and a couple bags of grain, and then you've got something that you can cook to where you can get the other minerals and nutritions that you need. So there are I'm not an expert in this. I mean, we're preppers naturally. We have a pantry. We go and we buy big 50-pound bags of bread making material and stuff to make soups. So we have a bunch of that. Canned food pretty much lasts forever, so you can't go wrong with buying extra canned food for your pantry. But yeah, I mean, that's my main recommendation. Remember the toilet paper apocalypse in 2019? We could have a repeat of that on February 17th. And the more that the agitation is taking place, the more I could see this as a possibility. The more it seems like it could be the Great Tribulation. I'm going to see what I can learn about the placement. I know, so I read somewhere once, or I actually saw it in a video, that when there is an eclipse, the whole sky is supposed to be read like a book. So there's meaning in the positions of all the planets and stuff like that. I'm kind of curious if there's anybody like projecting anything particular on that day. I'll have to do some research on it. Anyway, we're way over time, at about 20 minutes over. It's been 3 hours and 20 minutes. Felt a little bit more talkative today. Been a very interesting day. Yeah, I don't know how to present that information. I don't want to cause fear. It's not my intention to make people afraid. I've been through this so many times myself. My wife literally kicked me out of the house. If you're new to the channel and you're not aware of that, in 2019, I felt activated, and I told my wife we are in the end times, and at that time, I thought we were in the Great Tribulation, and we bought 3 years worth of food because I thought the Great Tribulation was going to last 3 years at that point in time. Well, depending on what you consider tribulation, I guess I was right, because it's been a roller coaster since 2019. We went through 2 years of the pandemic, and we went through 4 years of Joe Biden. And now we're going through all the other conflicts and anti-Semitism. And apparently white is now racist. White supremacists are evil and need to dial down their whiteness, whatever that means. So, I mean, maybe one of the reasons why it was such a shock to me when I was reading that just last week, that's when the Great Tribulation likely starts, is seal number 5. I thought we were already through it. Apparently it was the birthing pains. So, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you guys coming. Yeah, I am trying to figure out a way to make this more entertaining. If you have suggestions, if you guys like the pattern of bringing somebody else on the show, I don't know if that will work in order to get through all the content. That's one of the reasons why I haven't really visited that model again. Is it's hard enough as it is to get through all the content that Donald Trump and Elon Musk post. Sometimes Donald Trump will post 100 posts. Sometimes Elon Musk will post 100 posts. Sometimes both of them will post 150 posts. And if you've got somebody scheduled, how do you pick what's the most important post? I mean, we kind of see themes. Like, today we could probably break it down into 4 or 5 categories that they're hitting. But if you guys got ideas for ways to make it more entertaining and still be able to cover the content, I'm all ears. I'm not trying. One of the things that makes it difficult is I'm not trying to be given where we are in the timeline. It doesn't make sense to try and build this into a business and a broadcasting media group where we've got a producer and we've got, staff and we've got, show guests and stuff like that. It just doesn't make sense. Not and still fulfill the purpose of the show. So, but if you got ideas, I'm all open. If you prefer the summary style of the show better, thinking maybe it's easier to comprehend, or if you just prefer me doing this ad hoc to where as I think about things, I go down these rabbit holes. I tend to like that better. It's just easier because, I've got a lot of information up in my head. And when things come up, I like to chase down those thoughts while I have them, because who knows if they ever come back again. I think you should just play it and come and let God lead you. That's kind of what we're doing. That's kind of the model right now. Is it's kind of a led by inspiration. So I think it works. It's just I keep hoping for the 1 hour show, and they keep turning into 3 hour shows. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Really appreciate it. I don't know about you. I mean, even if the Great Tribulation is about to start, I'm still super excited because Jesus told us about this stuff so that when it happens, we will believe. And the world, you can see the division between the people who are coming to God and the people who are moving further away from him. This seems to be part of the great harvests. The curse does seem to be going throughout the whole world, going into the home of the thieves and perjurers. And really the end result of all of this is our redemption, right? That's the promise. The dude that gave us this information so we know what to expect is also the one who said, look up, for your redemption draws nigh. And that's what's really exciting about this. Even if things seem scary and, tempting to be afraid, the end result is look up, your redemption draws nigh. So we're going to see Jesus soon. That's becoming more and more of a reality every single day. We're going to see him very soon, and you're going to see him as he is. And then we're really going to start to get answers to all of our questions about life. So thanks for joining me. See you guys here tomorrow, same time, same place, hopefully shorter. God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom.